Do you like building spaceships? Of course you do. JR Fabrication make officially licensed Star Citizen products and Airfix-like model kits. Do you want an Arrow fighter? Maybe a Freelancer? Some Cyclone little buggies? Dragonflies? Oh my. You want dioramas of ships and vehicles? They've got them too. And they continue to add more to their range. Follow the link down below to jrfabrication.co.uk/board to see all of the wonderful products they have on offer, and use the code BOARDINVICTUS to also get some exclusive Fleet Week recruitment propaganda A3 art prints with each of your orders. Ooh. Do you like building spaceships? Of course you do. JR Fabrication make officially licensed Star Citizen products and Airfix-like model kits. Do you want an Arrow fighter? Maybe a freelancer? Some Cyclone little buggies? Dragonflies? Oh my! You want dioramas of ships and vehicles? They've got them too! And they continue to add more to their range. Follow the link down below to jrfabrication.co.uk/board to see all of the wonderful products they have on offer, and use the code BOARDINVICTUS to also get some exclusive Fleet Week recruitment propaganda A3 art prints with each of your orders. Ooh.
Oh, sorry, that's me. That's me, right? Sorry. Great fucking start. Yes, no, it's hello, Golden Triangles. I'll say all that again. Yeah, no, it is E3 tonight, isn't it? It's E3 for. It looks good actually. I'm going to be catching up on it. Later. We have Drew with us. Say hi, Drew. Check your audio works.
Hello.
Does everyone hear Drew as well? That would be a good start as well.
Indeed.
Yeah. How are you doing? It's been a while.
It's been too long. I've been doing great. Real busy, but doing really well. So it's been awesome.
Super stuff. What have you 3D printed since your last with us?
Oh, that's a good question. Something a little bit like this.
Oh, he's cool. Oh, so this is so you have joined the dubious ranks of Form 3 owners, haven't you?
Indeed, yes, I have. So
now a Form 3 owner.
Indeed. So I've been doing a couple different things.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a neat little. So yeah, just been having fun with stuff and checking it out. Been doing some non-Star Citizen stuff, which has been fun. And yeah, it's been cool to play around with. It's a great machine. I can't believe it's just really impressive.
Because your first SLA printer, isn't it? You haven't had.
Yes.
That was your
You
just had.
That was all FDM before. Yeah.
What for the?
Yeah, it's a whole new ball.
Yeah, I was going to say for those who have never sort of just done FDM printing or just really seen FDM printing, what is like the biggest? What's the biggest difference learning curve wise? Because you did a huge amount of FDM printing before you got.
I have, yeah. I would say the biggest difference is going to be post processing. So with FDM, you print it, pop it off the thing, you have your piece, you're done, easy peasy. With SLA, you print it, and then you got to wash it, and then you got to cure it, and make sure you don't have any extra resin, and you got to make sure it's really nice and clean, and it's a lot messier. If you have a mistake with an FDM printer, it will make some spaghetti. It's pretty easy to clean up. But if you make a mistake with an SLA, goo is everywhere. So it's a whole nother ball of wax.
It sort of turns into porridge. Your entire resin tray just turns to porridge, and you have to filter it through very, very fine paint filters, and it's resin. I was the other way, because before you got the Form 3, you'd only done FDM, and I'd only done SLA resin printing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And we were like, we're both 3D printers, but with no side. Then I was really, really mean to you, because the first project I gave you was like, we need to print these on an SLA, a machine you've never seen or used. You don't get to see or use it. You just have to provide files for me to print things out for the Kraken. Yeah, how was that?
That was a learning curve and a half. We like to call them potatoes, right? So I was working with the CIG models real early on, some janky 3D printers, FDM, and just trying to get those damn things to print right. You got to do some manipulation. You got to kind of fill out some of the areas that would not really normally print. So it was like, let me just do my same methodology. I'll, do what I did last time. It came out pretty good in my, left-hand printer, and we're good to go. And it wasn't good to go. But it's also, you're talking a level of detail that is unheard of, right? So the fact that you could get down to 0.025 micron wasn't even, I couldn't do that on my printers. My most detail was 0.1. So you have a whole different range of what's available and what can be accomplished with an SLA printer. And that's what happened. You're like, okay.
Sorry, the other thing that blows my mind, just on the subject at the 0.1. So do you have anything to hand that is 0.1 FDM printed?
I do.
Because this is the little Argo.
So I don't know if you can see the lines in there, but right here in the front, you can definitely see some major lineage.
Oh yeah.
And then what I would do now is I would print this in multiple pieces, so you could stop this from happening in the back here.
Yeah, because I'm just going to flip over to my desk cam, because like this is the bit of the Karak print. This is also printed in 0.1. This is 100 micron printing. Right. And so even comparing 100, it's like, I think that's the sort of the unfairity. People don't sort of people, when they see 100 micron FDM to SLA is not comparable. And I think that's because what does the 100 micron refer to in FDM print? Is it the layer height?
It's the layer height, yeah.
It is a layer height. So okay, so that is the same between we are still talking about layer height, but I suppose the difference with an SLA printer is the laser point is also point. I think what's the laser point? It's teeny tiny. It's like 20,
very small.
It's like 13 micron or something. Whereas, what's explain nozzle size to me on FDM?
So when you're putting down a layer of plastic, sure, you can have your vertical layer be 0.4 or 0.1, but your width is 0.4 because you have a 0.4 nozzle. So your amount of extruded plastic is going to be the amount or the size of the hole that you have. So you can go down to 0.2, you can go to you can get much smaller nozzles. It's a heck of a lot harder to print with that, for sure. So, that's the hard part about it, is that, if you want to do fast, big prints, like some of those nozzles are like 0.08, so you're just slapping plastic down. It's just, get it there.
I did see a printer that had a 1.2 mil nozzle on it the other day.
Oh, God.
Well, no, but it was like the print volume was about 2.5 meters by a meter by a meter. So it was like for I sort of look at that and go, that's quite an interesting replacement for a CNC carving job. So to actually to have that kind of not having to worry about undercuts, being able to do a huge piece, a thing, and then really sand it down like you would do with a wooden carve. And I think that's the thing. I would love an FDM printer. I would love a massive FDM printer.
Right. Yeah.
A sort of middle ground between carving stuff out of wood, like we did on the Dragonfly, and exactly. You can make some big ass things with FDM printers.
Exactly.
And I know you said, well, the post processing is a lot more for resin printers. I sort of disagree. So
okay.
I count sanding it to the point where it looks good as post processing.
Okay, fair enough.
So yes, okay, you have to wash and cure when you're using resin printers, but you don't have to. You bit of primer and a buff rather than filling and sanding and filling and sanding to get a mirror finish on stuff. So they're very different processes. I said I'd love to play with an FDM printer to really look at, like, okay, if we'd had a massive FDM printer when we did the Dragonfly, for example, we would have probably done the engines and stuff out of it. We'd have probably, we would have done a lot of those detail parts. The body that you sat on would have probably stayed as wood, I would think. Although I suppose with an FDM printer, interestingly, FDM printers are not fast. That is the other thing, that no 3D printing is fast. It's faster to carve out of a massive block of wood than it is to actually lay down. If you needed it to be like an inch and a half thick to make it strong enough for people to jump up and down on, it'd be quicker to carve it out of wood, I think.
Right. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
So I don't know. It's on my Christmas list, as well as a huge SLA printer. Golden Triangle's like, what's the powder type that's melted with a laser?
That's SLS. Yeah.
Well, SLS, which is like powder.
Sintering.
Yes, sintering. Powder plastic or metals or that kind of stuff. You can certainly get metal 3D printers that work like that, and they are very cool. But they are mega money. Yeah, absolutely mega money.
I was looking into the Fuse 1 from Formlabs, but I decided to go with Form 3.
Yes, and I've not got it kicking around. I don't know. Did you ever get the bottle opener from them?
No, I never got it. They sent me the Tough 2000 pump housing, but I was like, well, that's useless. Like,
yeah, we've got that.
yeah, exactly. So
now Formlabs do a rigid 10K resin, and it is unbelievable. It's a glass fiber infused resin, and I genuinely look at it and go, that sort of replaces a little bit the Fuse 1, in my opinion. It's like, because for the SLS powder, Fuse 1 is a nylon printer, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's producing really robust parts that you can
exactly
stand on and jump on.
Functional parts. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, functional parts. And I do think that there are now some resins like the Tough 2000, like the Rigid 10K, that you can make functional parts out of on the Form 3. Yeah. And therefore the Form 3L as well, which obviously has the much, much bigger print volume. Hello, Letzig. Welcome. Form 2, Form 3 is liquid resin that's cured with a laser, whereas other SLA printers use an LCD screen. So Formlabs printers, I see it as 3 different levels of SLA printers. You've got your hobbyist printers that sort of sit at the bottom, which use what I assume is an off-the-shelf LCD panel, either 4K, or some of them are running 8K panels now, but they are just normal LCD panels that they can buy en masse. You then get the Formlabs printers, which are a laser-based system. They have much finer precision. They're also, because the laser is more powerful than the LCD, it can cure the resin harder, I think, as it's doing it. There are advantages and disadvantages. Formlabs printers are actually quite slow, because the issue you have with a laser is it has to scan the whole of the print like an old CTR monitor. So if you've got a very, very busy layer, that laser takes ages to do it. Whereas when you're using an LCD panel, it takes the same amount of time for every layer, no matter what's on it.
Yeah.
So that is an advantage. Interestingly, when you go to the next level of printers, you go back to panels again. So the industry printers do have panels in them, but they are bespoke panels for 3D printers, and the actual panel itself is about 50 grand. And they're the printers that are like £250,000. But they have they sort of do both. So they have their panels specifically designed to only work on the wavelengths that cures the resin, like the lasers do. But they also have the speed advantage of flashing a layer at a time. But because they're so ludicrously bright, they flash so much faster that they like in big industry printers are printing 5-6 times as quick as our printers.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But they're about 30 times the cost. So I still argue you'd be better off with a print farm of our printers than spending £250,000. Yeah, and that's not just because we bought it. We've drunk the Formlabs Kool-Aid. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, and the thing is, every week there's new printers, and you can get color resin printers now. You can get the color kind of paper printers. I mean, there's so much technology, and we've had people, in the Discord server talking about the best hobbyist printers. What printers should people go for? There are so many options. There are so many models now. I genuinely think the cheap ones that are out there are exceedingly suitable for hobbyists. If you want to do D&D characters, get into 3D printing, they are fantastic. They are not going to be an off-the-shelf solution like a Formlabs printer. You actually need to make sure that they are in a nice environment. I was talking to Nighthawk about this the other day, and Engineer helped him out a huge amount with his SLA printer because it just wouldn't work. And just like everything had to be coddled to get it to the right environment, to the right he was ready to give up on it. Just like, and that's something we never had to go through because we had other stresses in our lives at the time, with it being a CitizenCon job. But one of them, thankfully, was not getting 3D printers to print things because they just worked off the shelf. Unji's right. FDM is ludicrously scalable. Because I did wonder.
Did I send you that video of them 3D printing a boat?
Well, I have seen. I don't know if you sent it to me. I have seen images of them doing it, and I think, to be honest, it almost looks like they've just put a 3D printing head on a CNC machine, like a big 7 CNC. And I did wonder whether, could I just mount an FDM head to my router, just next to my router, and then use that as a massive 3D printer? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought this would be a terrible idea. Because obviously FDM printers have to have the heated bed. It's like, well, we could kind of mimic that. But the biggest problem about the larger you go, the slower it will be. Not just because it's doing a bigger area, but the larger your machine gets, the heavier it gets. And the heavier the bridge section is, the bit that goes across the machine that the head is moving along, the heavier that becomes, the slower it accelerates and decelerates. Now, the issue, the reason I didn't even think about doing it to mine is because mine's a wood router. The actual router motor on it weighs 40 kilos because it's got a water jacket on and everything. So the bridge itself, so that bridge, and it's 2 meters long, so it doesn't deflect by even a fraction of a millimeter. the bridge itself weighs quarter of a ton. Because it's just metal like that. You know, it's absolutely fast. So it doesn't speed up and slow down very fast. I mean, it's still frightening, I think, the speed it can do it. But when you watch like a laser working or an FDM printer, it can move very, 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 very fast and trace very, very fast if it needs to. This thing has this thing doesn't move at a consistent rate because of its deceleration and acceleration. You can't just stop it on a dime. So I do wonder whether that would mess up, because when you're FDM printing, I'm assuming that it has to sort of keep a constant speed, because if it were, or does the plastic not care that you're dispensing it at a different rate? Really,
it doesn't care. Yeah, and your software will dictate how much you're extruding at certain times. So, for example, like if you're doing the outside layers, it's going to slow down. And it's going to do nice and even, and then when you're doing infos, it's going to wait, and then it's going to go on the outside, and the feed rate moves with the rate of the head. And then like you have the two different types of FDM print heads, the Bowden extruder, which is the extrusion and the drive of it is separated from the head, so the weight is reduced from the head. But you also get flex in your filament. You get a couple other issues with that. And then you have the direct drive, which is literally just a gear. Filament goes through there, and it pushes it right into the hot end. And that's all that one unit at the top. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And which is better?
Depends
I'm
on
sure
your
that's
situation.
a really easy question.
Yeah, no, I the only ones that I've used personally are the direct drives. I have used a couple different Bowdens, and they come with their own sets of issues and trials and tribulations and things like that. So you just got to be familiar with what you're working with, and especially if you have good slicing software, that's going to help you out a major when you're doing the prints. I use Simplify. Works for all my printers, all the way back to the old, wooden printer bot that I got. So nice. It's great software, and you can tweak all of it. What's up?
How long have you been doing it? When did you buy your first printer, and what was the first thing project you printed on it?
About 5, almost 6 years ago. I was working for Ingram, and I was upstairs in the sales department. And of course, I was technical, and they weren't very technical, and they had these 3D printers just sitting on the shelves there. And I'm like, well, what's going on with those? Like, we don't know what those are. I was like, can I take it home? And they're like, sure. We don't know what that is. So I took it home. I got it up and running, and I started printing Star Citizenships. That was what I did.
Nice.
I believe the 300 was my first one.
I hear that awful to print.
They are horrendous to try and just like pick them and print them and just hope for the best. You're gonna lose. It's gonna be very sad.
Yeah.
But we know this. We know intimately.
No one should do it. They should just find somewhere to buy them from or something.
They should buy them from a place that has officially licensed kit models. I think that'd be amazing.
Totally do that.
Highly detailed.
So speaking of which, we should probably do a quick update on all.
That's a great idea.
On all things that. So this isn't Workshop Wednesday. This is Maker Stream, but it's effectively the same thing. Just one has Sunday, one has Wednesday in the title. So I hope people don't expect a different show format. It's the same shit, So nothing's really happened on Mr. Carrick. Well, things have happened, but I haven't got any new prints. So I could waffle on about them, but it's not very interesting. What I have been doing is working on some of the diorama accessories, the 1 to 500 dioramas. So we have a sort of final print for the Cutlass Black.
That's awesome.
So these, I thought I'd leave them on the scaffolding. It's almost, there's a little gap here, you'll notice. Well, I'll take you through what's missing because I haven't quite done it yet. So that will be, that's a whole Cutlass Black minus the little bit that's missing. And just on 2 prints, comes in a clamshell pack, nice and simple. The body, it looks like it's in one piece, but it's not. So, like we sort of said before, and it goes back to that Argo of yours. There's when you're 3D printing something, there's that kind of that impulse to print the whole thing in one go, and their disaster lies. Because if you imagine printing a sphere, and if you're printing a sphere in a 3D printer, and I'm going back to the comments about synthering, ignore that. They're the only ones that get away with this, because that's kind of one of their big things. They have no supports because they're already in the powder. But every other type of 3D printer that I know of, other than them, needs rigging supports. So these things. These are teeny tiny touch supports.
Yeah, the infusion printers will do the same thing, because you're still printing in powder, right? But it's a little different methodology.
Yes.
So you don't have to have supports for that.
Yes, so they are huge advantages of those printers. But certainly FDM and SLA need supports. Roughly looking at this, what would you say if you imagine that this was an FDM print, yes, you wouldn't get the detail. Is the number of supports about the same? Because
it's about right.
Yeah, it's about the same. Okay, so people familiar with FDM prints won't be completely taken aback by the number that you have on an SLA print. Sometimes there seems to be more than there should be, especially on along the edge of aerofoils. But I have discovered that putting a lot of very, very teeny tiny touch points along aerofoils gives you a much easier surface to sand. One big point, I could probably get away with one or two, maybe even just one on this bit here, but you would end up with a really awkward bit to finish when you're sanding it off. Whereas 5 or 6 actually work really well. Just the touch points are they're 0.15 of a millimeter touches, so that's just nothing. So these bases are ones that we've designed just to make them easier to put in our clamshell. So they are the width. The width of these is the depth of our clamshell, so we know they fit in the foam right. Because that is one annoying thing about Formlabs. Preform sort of normal support structures. I don't think I've got any kicking around. I had to tidy my desk. They just sort of do the most efficient one possible, but sometimes they're bigger or small, and you can't keep control of them. So I tend to use these quite a lot now. So back to the sphere. If you're printing a sphere, if you put it in one go, one whole half of it's going to have loads and loads and loads of little touch points on it that you're then going to have to smooth off and sand. So you end up with one half of your sphere that hasn't had to be sanded and finished, and the other half that has. Whereas if you actually split it in half, turn them so they both faced upwards, and had all your support points on the flat face that you're then going to join to the other flat face, it's dead easy. And that's, yes, you've got the seam to deal with, but that seam is easier to deal with than all those touch points on the surface, especially when you're doing these sort of ships. We're trying to orientate these on the print in the best way so we don't have the touch points. So these touch points underneath are actually on a joint. I shall just very quickly and...
Now, the one thing that I noticed with
just
FDM printing is you would make like main supports, so there'd be like big main supports, and then you'd branch off of those to have the little tiny touch points.
Okay.
So for more of the detail,
I mean, it's a little the same with SLA printing. So here's a nice little example. So this is the back door of the cutlass. We'll give it a quick sand, but that basically sits under here to complete it. So you can sort of see here that there's a little rim that goes around the piece, and on the rim itself it's got lots and lots of teeny tiny little touch points, and then there's some big touch points in the middle. So the reason that there's a rim is that it just sets these bigger surfaces that are going to have the big touch points back by 0.5 millimeter, so you don't actually need to sand those ones back, because then they're just taken just enough away from, it's not two flat surfaces coming together, it's only the rim that we want flat. And because that's got lots and lots of teeny tiny ones, you sort of just see the sawtooth, just one little... I'm bound to have a bit of sandpaper, always a bit of sandpaper. I don't know if I can do this on the camera over here. can sort of see it's almost already smooth. I'm not really even pushing down on this, but it's a nice flat surface to get that. And then it shows.
I'm sure you can, Angie.
Well, I'm not going to stop you, Angie. I'm not going to stop you.
Only you will know.
Only you will know. If I do that, it's going to be a bit. This is going to be a bit gruesome. There's not enough light here. That's not going to work at all. That's not going to work. It's going to have to stay in the light box.
Oh no.
Yeah, let me just quickly. So it's about trying to hide these things off so things go together, and you get better joints. I mean, that's what we're sort of aiming for. So the door sits in the back, and then that hides all those big touch points that we had to put in the cutlass, because the cutlass is printed this way up. If we've got a few big monster touch joints, you see the size of those ones in there, that's supporting this model enough, basically. It's not going to wobble around, it's not going to... So all the other touch points after those ones are just to try and pick up the little details and things like that, which leaves you with very, very, very small touch points on these little aerofoils and things and stuff like that. Now, we've occasionally... don't know if this is going to be able to say. So the guns on the top, we've actually added the teeniest of tiniest, I need a scalpel to get it off, tiny little touch points so that it didn't have to put a big touch point on it. So we do go to the nth degree to make sure that we've got all those. So on the rest of this, we have FTM taught me sanding is life. Sanding is life. The Raven taught me sanding is life.
That's what I was gonna say. You had a different experience with that.
I don't think I've ever sanded more than I sanded on that Raven project. The biggest issue with the Raven was it was done the old place I used to work on, their CNC machine, and my old boss's opinion of CNC tooling was buy it as cheap as possible and burn it out and throw it out. So nothing was ever sharp. I mean, his argument was it doesn't matter how much you spend on these bits, they don't last anyway. Why spend 150 quid on a bit when you can buy one for 5 quid off Amazon? It's just like, so we just burnt them all the time. When I got my machine, I went down the other route and bought 150 quid bits and get them sharpened for a tenner a time, and they usually last me at least a year. But most of the time I'm using them, they are actually fucking sharp. So they don't leave you with as much to sand. To be fair, he was really only using it to cut out shapes, two-dimensional shapes. He just had to sand the edges. We were using it to actually carve three-dimensional shapes, so every bit of the surface needed sanding. So it was, apples and oranges, really. So these two little guys at the front are actually the... I don't think you're going to be able to see them. Let me snap them off. Should really have brought some pliers. There we go. Can you guess what it is yet?
Teeny tiny pieces.
Teeny tiny pieces. So these are the front landing gear.
Aha.
So landing gear out, because it's Drake, they don't know how to design anything. And then landing gear tucked up. So that is the front landing gear off the Cutlass, which is just ludicrous. But you know, it's got to be there. It's got to be there. So it fits in just underneath here. So with these diorama kits, we are still giving you everything you need to do landed or in flight, but you're going to have to glue it together or do something very clever. Unlike the full kit models where you can swap them out with magnets forever and ever, these are very much, you've got to pick whether you're doing it flight or landed and glue it in. So the thing that is missing still is I haven't done the rear landing gear. So it's got the little holes for them. So they either tuck up inside or there's a version with them folded out. So they're the two things for that. So that can go away. We have this one, which is the Cutlass Red. Ooh. So I thought there was very little differences between the Cutlass Black and the Cutlass Red. Off the top of your head, without looking at it, what are the differences between the Cutlass Black and the Cutlass Red? That's a question. No. So if you can,
It's
see if you can tell me
got
all the
round.
differences.
The airlocks are round.
Yeah, so it has airlocks rather than doors on the side.
Right. It's got a toilet instead of a turret.
The TDS toilet instead of a turret. So it has instead of a turret, it does have something. So the black
It's got the spotlight thing, right?
The black has a turret, and the red has a scanner with a searchlight on it. So that's it. That is another difference. So what I didn't realize was it doesn't have missile pods.
Oh.
Which I had never noticed. So on the black at the back here, it has the little missile pods with the missiles inside it. I'm going to turn this counter. See if this will be nice to me. I need to just change the properties of my desk cam on the fly so that it's not to allow it to autofocus. Right, so I mean, I can't see my own screen. So in the back there, it's got the little missiles on these little missile pods. On the red, it does not. They're completely missing. Focus.
Wow, that's I never noticed.
I never noticed. Now we have got on the side rescue.
Rescue. Oh, now I can see it. Yep, that's cool.
I tried to indent it because it's just a decal. It's just paint. But it's too small through a decal on this model. So I thought, oh, well, I'll recess it in. But there's so many panel lines, especially at this end of it, that it just got lost in the panel lines. So we bumped it out. But of course, you can't mirror writing, can you? So you have to do it all twice. So rescue is spelt is the right way around on both sides.
Yeah, that's funny.
So that's
CIG just flips it.
Well, no. Interestingly, this was a customly drawn on both sides. Interestingly, because it.
Well, I know
it was.
I'm just saying we've seen those decals that are. Reversed.
Yeah. They usually flip it. Yeah, these were two separate decals because the way it goes over the surface, it's not flat in either direction. It has to go around the door and stuff. So they did do it custom. So we've got the airlocks, we've got rescue on the side, we've taken off the missile pods off the black. Other than that, it's the same, apart from it's a weapon loadout.
Nice.
So the idea was to have two prints, one that's sort of the common print, and obviously I've taken all this off the scaffolding. Imagine that's still on there. So you've got a common print which has the engines, which are the same on both. The red also has like beacons, like flashy light beacons on it. Let me just turn my camera back to how it was before, because otherwise it's going to drive me nuts.
And you're setting the focal length, right?
Yeah, I can't cope with this camera on autofocus all the time because it never focuses. I'd rather have it on a fixed focus, and I'll just move my hand. It saves hours on the streams. So there'll be this print that has the landing gear, the wings, and the engines, because they don't change between the ships at this scale. I'm sure there probably are subtle differences if we were say doing this a 1 to 200, there might be visible enough, sort of differences to be able to do it. But at this scale, there isn't. And then another print that has the body and the back door, which I think is always the same, and then the turret. So that. Again, thinking about how we reduce costs and therefore reduce the sale price, there's 3 cutlasses to do eventually. We're only doing 2 at the moment because JR forgot that the Cutlass Blue was in game because he's a derp. And I've never seen one. No, I've never fucking seen one.
I was the last time I was out mining with a friend, we got attacked by a Cutlass Blue and they killed us, took our stuff.
That sucks.
Yeah.
They're pretending to be police instead of... I mean...
No, I think they're just being jerks.
All right. I did... So, if anyone hasn't checked out, Maya is doing some of that. Basically, he's doing roleplay streams.
Oh, cool.
and I was watching him the other night, and that was basically what he was doing. He was a pirate going around trying to find miners to attack and steal their cargo. But not in a Cutlass Blue. He was in a Cutlass Black. So more role play.
More appropriate, exactly.
Yes, you can make wee woo noises. That is very true, engineer. That is very, very true. So that's cool. So the red and the black are just about there, which is nice. We also have the Pisces now in Tough 2000. So we saw them on Wednesday in an old print. So there still needs some more detailing on. There's some panel lines that it's interesting. So seeing Lupercal's paint jobs of the arrows has made me realize I actually need to put lines where there are paint lines, because some psychotic painters are good enough to actually paint these things this small. So there's a few more lines that need to go on it. The landing gear, I'm happy with the size of the landing gear now on the landed one. Yeah, you as well, Nighthawk. You need the paint lines because you have the half hair brush that allows you to do this shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you can see how you're going to get more panel lines on it. It's a good fucking question. But you can sort of see in there it's got the gap through it and everything. So that's looking quite nice now. What I did realise I forgot to do is put a hole in the bottom of the stand, so I need to do that. And that one didn't fail, but another one did, and they all have the same issue. So we have a failure here in that there's a hole. There is a hole in behind the screen. So I was sort of looking and going, right, okay, where is this hole? Because all of these things are sort of have been brought in as separate entities in this. So the screen is here, and there is the cavity. You can sort of see the internals of the ship in there. So that's interesting. I wonder where our infill has gone, because we did have. Oh, interesting. So I wonder whether it's hollowed because we've lost our infill on this. Okay, let's try and fix that. So I did have an infill there, which seems to have failed. So when I first imported this, it was, shall we say, a little bit too dense. Oh yes, that's what's happened. So our infill has broken. Cool. So we can fix this. We're good. So let's just get rid of you. So I had the infill, and it was about 9 million polys. So I just told it to reduce it down, and I think it broke it when it did that. So I think that's what's going on.
Aha.
I shouldn't have.
Only 9 million, huh?
Yeah, I apologize if the stream now crashes because I've asked 3D Cope to do something. No, I think we're right. Oh, let's go down to that. So this should be a solid, which is basically the internals just all filled in. So if we turn the body on, we can sort of see it sitting in there. So that should fill in all that space on the inside. So,
and this is all voxel based, right?
This is all voxel based, yeah. So that is what has happened, because when we go into preform and slice through this, yeah, there's this huge cavity on the inside.
Right. Yeah.
Especially near the nose. So yeah, so that's what's occurred. So what I need to do is just re-add that in. I'm not going to do it live on stream because 3D Coat is one of these odd CAD programs that most of the time it behaves like normal CAD programs and just uses one core on your CPU. And then there are certain functions like adding voxelization where it will max out my entire CPU and it will stop streaming. So we're not going to try that. But yeah, so that's what's going on. So I need to re-add. This should just be a solid lump that sits inside. Yeah, sits inside it. Wish I'd never stopped painting models, but I stopped about 12. Yeah, 30 years of practice. That's gonna that's going to be an issue. I never was very good when I was 12 either. It's one of those things I wish I was good at painting. I collect Warhammer figures, and I have a huge army of unpainted things. I think I've painted probably 24 of an Imperial Guard. I mean, why I picked Imperial Guard as a swarm army, I do not understand. When I knew I wasn't very good at painting, I should have just got an Imperial Knight and just had done with it. Not that they were available back then, but should have gone with Terminators or something. But yeah, and I sat there and sort of painted and painted and painted, and I don't find it relaxing. I find it immensely frustrating. So I think painting only works if you don't get hacked off with it, quite frankly. Just because it's like, if
a little OCD goes a long way too. It's the hard part.
As long as you don't get frustrated by it, it's just like, I would just get to the point where I want to throw them at the wall after about an hour. And just fact. And I think that was the issue. It was just like, oh no, I didn't find it relaxing. It's like it was supposed to be a relaxing evening sort of like hobby thing to do, and it was very counterproductive because it was far from that. So once we fixed that, we've added panel lines and put a hole for the stand in. That is the Pisces done. So the Pisces kit will be the same as the Arrow kit in that in one kit you will get 4 Pisces, 3 in flight mode. So you have 1 sprue with 2 in flight, and then 1 sprue with 1 in flight and 1 landed. So you have 3 flight, 1 landed in between the 2.
Cool.
And I think that's quite a nice way of doing the really little ones, because these are obviously all 1 to 500. Just getting just getting a kit with 1 of these in, you're paying a lot more for packaging than you are for the model. That doesn't really work for me.
That looked like it was in a different resin.
Yeah, so this I started printing these out in Pro.
Okay.
But they are too brittle because, I mean, to be honest, that landing gear was too small anyway. But I used to print these smaller parts in Pro because you get much higher detail, all that kind of stuff. But the Tough 2000 is so much better for this sort of stuff. It really is. Really is. So
yeah, you definitely get good detail off of that.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So speaking of small ships, we have. I've got it open somewhere. We have to talk about 1 to 500 ships. So the strapline said that we're going to reveal all of the 1 to 500 ships we're doing this year. So these
big
are all
announcements.
NDA. No. So we've done a little infographic, and I will take this opportunity on this stream/video to sort of explain it, because it'll probably go on our website at some point. So here she is. In the past, we've used Lumfoki's ship matrixy thing, and it sort of worked for us for a while, but we thought, you know what, it's probably about time we did our own custom ship chart, in that we make ships. So it seemed to be the thing to do. So we'll have a little bit of a zoom in on this. So, well, actually, we'll deal with the more global issues first. So 1 to 500 JRDF models. So this chart is just for 1 to 500 ships. We're only talking 1 to 500 here. So we've got the ones highlighted in green are ones that are already on sale, of which there are none, because we haven't put any on sale yet. The ones with orange highlights, like the Karak, which we're obviously working on in open development, is... Hello, thank you for the follow, Darkness Mutter. Welcome. So the ones in a sort of orange highlight up here, They are released Q3 this year, so that's very, very soon. 017 indeed. And the ones with a sort of pinky purpley highlight, they are the ones that are Q4, so end of this year. So before the end of the year, they will also be released. So this allows us to have a bit of a look at what the map is looking like for the rest of this year. So what have we got? So the other thing on this chart, which we should hopefully see as we zoom in, is we've got these red lines and the green line. Now, hopefully the red line is liney enough you'll be able to see it. So this is the size of the ship as a model in 1 to 500. Okay, so this is how big it is. So these little Pisces, as we can see here, are about an inch, just over an inch with its guns. So the idea of this chart is to basically go, right, okay, how big are these ships in 1 to 500? So people have a decent realization of kind of what they'll be getting themselves into. This chart, and feel free to argue with me, you'll be wrong. This chart is in rough size order, not length, size order. Great example of which, if we go to the top of this here, is the Misk Reliant. The Misk Reliant may only be just over an inch long, but it's still a much bigger ship than Pisces, because it's really, really wide. So at the end of the day, this is more for me to go, right, this is the rough order of the size of these ships, and therefore helps me understand what sort of packaging they'll be going into, whether a diorama piece or a kit model, all that kind of stuff. So things in this first row that we are announcing today. So the Pisces and the Arrow, they're both for this coming quarter, Q3 2021. We were aware of that. The Buccaneer is also coming in this year. It's in Q4. We also have the Gladius in Q4. Again, these are the 1 to 500 ships. And that is it for this first row, I think, of other things. So I'm afraid there's none of these other ships. Hopefully, if it's your favorite ship, you will recognize your silhouettes, because we are that sad as a community. Let's be honest. So next row. So now we're talking 2 to 3 inch ships and a bit bigger. Saber is in. Raven is not yet, but the Saber is. In 1 to 500, most of these are diorama accessories. So these are the ones that are coming in these sort of clamshell packaging rather than full magnetic box and sleeve and instructions and all that kind of stuff. They are so small at 1 to 500, these small ships, that realistically there is not enough difference between their variants. So things like the Vanguard, things like the Avengers, when we do them in 1 to 100, 1 to 200, there will be a separate kit for every type of Avenger, every type of Vanguard, because you will see the difference at that point. However, in 1 to 500, you just won't. There isn't enough difference. A few panel lines here and there. It's not worth doing a whole different SKU, all different license agreements, all the rest of it for that. Plus, diorama kits are not limited edition, and we make as many as people want to buy of, rather than the kit models where we only do 500. So we don't have that same issue of, if we only do 500 Cyclones, what if everyone effectively makes the MT and no one gets an RC? So we're not having, we've not got that to worry about. So Saber is in Q4. The Mantis is in Q4. I'm sure there's some other stuff in this row as well. Right, so we've got the Miz. Oh, no, that was me zooming in. Fix my problems. Right. The Miz is in Q4. The other 3 freelancers, the Standard, the Dirt, and the Max, are all Q3. They were quicker to do because we've already done bigger kit models of them. So, that was quicker. But I feel we should bring the Miz in as well as a 1 to 500 just down there. Couple of Cutlasses. The blue isn't there because, I forgot about the blue. But they're all in, and then potentially is probably the more interesting row is here. So the Vanguards are coming in 1 to 500. So that's a over 3-inch model of the Vanguards. So they can be painted up as any of the Vanguards that works for the 1 to 500 dioramas. Freelancer Max, we already know about that one. No Mole, no Valkyrie, no Connies. Now, I don't know enough about the Connies, but as far as I can tell, these are the 3 that are in game, and they are, like the Freelancers, different enough that they would be different models. You can't, well, why aren't we doing the Vanguard variants? We are doing the Freelancer variants. You can definitely tell the difference between those Freelancers, and I think the same for the Connies, because they are sort of significantly different. And the Phoenix is getting up to a 6-inch model now, so this is a model that's bigger than our Greycat PTV. In length anyway. We're getting towards a fairly decent sized model at this point. Although this is still sitting under the guise of diorama accessories, so that it will still be coming in a big clamshell package, rather than a fully boxed kit, which is cheaper. But it does give us the option. My sort of general cut-off rule here is that a diorama accessory doesn't need magnetic interchangeable landing gear. It doesn't have to have all its cargo bays visible, all that kind of stuff, whereas a kit model does. So that's, in my head, they're the rules I've set myself, and I'm sticking to them for some ungodly reason. Now, the Tally, is that getting a rework? Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Right at the top of this chart, the MSR. The MSR is confirmed. We are releasing an MSR model at the end of this year in 1 to 500. It's so
confirmed.
That is a good point, God Triangles. I think we might have to. But yes, MSR is confirmed for the end of this year in 1 to 500. So it's 4-inch long model. 4 inches wide, interestingly, and to put that into some sort of context, it's about this big. It's a little bit wider than the back of a Carrack, basically.
Yeah, that's going to be a big model. Wow.
So it's a big diorama piece, certainly. It's not an insignificant little thing. So these are the sorts of size of models we're now talking about here. When we're at this point, and then the Caterpillar. Now the Caterpillar does seem to be a little bit of an oddball. Where have you gone? Come back. Stop. I should have opened this in a program other than Chrome. Much better idea. Now the Caterpillar is sort of stuck up here on a limb, and some of the sort of like people may go, well, why have you got a Caterpillar up here and if I do that, you'll be able to see the whole thing. Caterpillar up here. Let's get the whole thing in. My screen's slightly cropped. So Caterpillar's up here, and the Caterpillar is sitting at just over 8 inches. And the 600 down here. I genuinely think the 600 is a bigger ship than the Caterpillar. I also think it's a more complicated ship from a model point of view because it has clear parts on it, yada, yada, yada. So I think this is, it's a debatable cutoff here, but this is what I feel is the cutoff from a modeling point of view. I think that the Caterpillar is as big as we could go as a big diorama accessory. If I'm honest with you, I'm also pushing it into that, and the landing gear is so horrific. Doing interchangeable landing gear on the fucking Caterpillar is going to be really expensive. Because of where all its little legs are, whereas I think we can get away with it on a 1 to 500 model as a glued option far easier. So that's my argument for it. The 600, so this is getting into kit models now. Now, I will say that these first two, the Starfarer and the 600i, will probably be small kit models. So a box smaller, potentially smaller than the Dragonfly Arrow boxes. Although they are actually bigger than the PTV as a model, it just seems we've come a long way with foam and stuff and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what actual physical box it fits in. It may be in a slightly smaller box, because there is a box slightly smaller than the one that we use for that available to us, which obviously saves on shipping and costs and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. That's more of a packaging issue. The Hercules. The Hercules is also confirmed for this year. So the Hercules is going to be a kit model there. Because it's a kit model, it will be multiple variants. So it will be the C2 and the M2 and maybe the A2 if it's in game by the end of the year. That's, it has to be in game for us to launch it. So that will be a little bit of a question mark from that point of view, because we don't know when the 8. We know it's scheduled, but fingers crossed. Hammerhead, Carrack. Carrack is already obviously confirmed. That's coming in the next quarter. Now, before we get on to the last row, which I'm sure some of you are interested in, there does seem to be an awful lot of ships missing. That's because they're not in game. This is just a chart of the ships that are in game and not Vandal. That's my favorite thing. No Vandal ships. There's no point. We don't want to do Vandal ships until we're actually doing Vandal ships, and that needs to be squadron or post squadron, so that the final models are there and all the rest of it. Not doing the sort of reworked human versions of Vandal ships. Plus, we've only got like a couple that are down here effectively for teeny tiny ships. It's just not worth it at this point. So the final row on this chart is the extra large kit models. So these are the models that are currently in game that we could do kit models of, and they're massive.
Massive.
So the Reclaimer, not only is it 14 inches long, it's also really tall, like 7 inches tall. It's also 8 inches wide. I mean, it's just an absolute behemoth. It's, obviously people see it sitting on the planet. Understood, Nighthawk. We shall keep talking to you. It is such a behemoth that, yes, Ungie knows all about how big the Reclaimer is. Ungie's built a beautiful Reclaimer.
Yes,
he's built
indeed.
a beautiful Reclaimer. It's a big boy. It's going to be a big model. It's certainly going to be. Yeah. When you sort of look at Carrack versus that, I think it's about 4 times the size of the Carrack volume wise. Its engines alone are huge. So that's definitely a thing. We've then got the 890. The 890 is a ball egg as well, because now we're at nearly 17 inches in length and so many clear parts on it. So I know you guys have heard me whinge about the size of the clear parts. Well, all of this back canopy here is clear so that you can see the inside of the ship. That's about the size of the MSR. The whole model is the glass bit on this.
Wow.
Its hangar all needs done, because you can pretty much squeeze I'm sure I have actually seen 5 stories tall. Yeah. I'm sure I've seen someone actually squeeze a freelancer into this front cargo bay. So the 890 is just a vast ship. And then there's the Idris, and we're not going to talk about the Idris. No, we are going to talk about the Idris. The Idris is 0.5 meter long. So the Idris is going to be
wow, that's a big boy.
A massive model. It's going to be gorgeous. All of these 3 here require us to have new 3D printing / casting technology to do it. We're still keen to do them. They've got to be high on the list, because they are so good. They are so good. Now, we've not got that many in chat, so it's a perfect opportunity to try this. So I've got all technological. Let's do the thing. Right. So
yes,
we've not been able to test this, right? Drew gets the shakes remembering.
I do.
So, for all those who don't know, Drew did an Idris for JRDF back in 2018-19. Hello, Firemaster. Yeah, Drew did an Idris for us in 1 to 750 for the Winslow reception. And again, this was before Drew owned an SLA printer, so he was once again designing on a piece of machine that
sight unseen,
that you'd never seen, never used, never had an experience with, and we were like, just do it. And we were up against it because we installed it over Christmas, and it was a beautiful model, painted beautifully by Miz. I cannot wait to get back to it. It's going to be much bigger this time.
Oh man,
the level that we have come on a drawing point of view since we did that Idris, huge. So this Idris will be the best model we have ever done. It is not going to be soon. It's probably a year's project to get this as a model. Because the engines, all the lightable elements of it, having the internals so that you can open the front doors and park ships in it. This is going to be a beautifully amazing model. If enough people want it, we will obviously bring it to the top of the list. Now, this is what this next section of this show is about. I installed a widget on Twitch, and now we're going to see whether JR installed the widget on Twitch correctly. So we're going to move over to this screen. So you can't see us, but you can see the screen. I appreciate that some of these small ships are going to be quite hard to identify potentially, because I don't know what your resolution is like at the other end. So we have this widget called Smart Click Maps. So, in theory, when I say go, there is some means at your end to click on the screen, and we should see where you're clicking as a percentage. This will either work or it won't. I'll be honest, my my sort of like hopes aren't high. But hey ho, I'm going to activate it now. I've now started Click Maps. So in theory, if any of you click on it, it should now do things. We apparently had 4
that's
clicks.
cool.
I can't see anything. So you can see it at your end. I can't see it. Oh right, right. I'm looking at stream preview. I can see it. Oh, now it's appearing on my OBS. This is telling me nothing. So this was. I've clicked on the Avenger a few times. What is it doing?
It's doing something.
It's doing something. Let's see the. Oh, I see. So 8 users, 93 clicks. So it isn't 1 vote per user. So this may not work as a method of voting.
9,000 clicks on one thing.
It's fine. Just keep clicking away. I keep Hashgahar's done half of them on the Avenger. So I'm interested by the shapes it's producing.
It's almost like a heat map or something, where it's like showing where different people are clicking.
It is.
It's interesting.
It is. So, yeah.
I mean,
this is useful information.
It's almost there.
Yeah, it's the more the more clicks that happen, the more clicks that happen, the clearer it becomes. So we can see Hashgahar's Avenger is up there. Oh, now we've got 14%. How interesting. Right, okay, so I'm going to stop it.
That is interesting.
That is interesting. So, right. So, we're going to try this again. How am I going to do this? Right, we need to do a little bit of on the flyness here. So we can go back to this, and if I put this in this scene as well, that should be fine. So, let's try and reduce the number of ships that we're trying to talk about. I think might work better. because it's my fear was it's not particularly accurate. So this should be a good test because we've got Ashkahar. So let's just go with this. So I will obviously have to do a better chart for this. No, and stop doing that. Right. So. Okay. So only click on ships that are not already highlighted because they're already on. Hello, Death Ghosts. Welcome to the madness. You can join in. So the idea is this was supposed to be this really clever voting system over, kind of what the next ship people want. It's going really badly. I'll be honest. Right, so click on the ships that you'd like to see next that aren't already highlighted because they have already been announced as ones that we're doing, that are currently seen on these 3 rows of this screen. Fuck only knows. Right. Okay. It has to gather data before it shows us anything, I think. Because I have the ship that's not been made nor released. You get to welcome, Asnor. Yes, you get to click things. So we're testing out this Twitch extension that said, see, this is more useful information. So I think it's going to have to be perhaps only like having 4 or 5 things on the screen, because I assume that part of this 58% is someone clicking on the Cutlass Blue and someone clicking on the Avenger. I'm gonna guess the Avenger might be Hashgrave. And they're too close, obviously, to get to distinguish that between 2 different things. So that's interesting. Someone clicking on the Avenger.
Someone is doing it.
Yeah. So the idea is you click on the screen. Now I think I'm going to be really unhelpful here, Death Ghost, because I can't see it. I think there should be a little pop-up thing around the right-hand side of the screen called Smart Click Maps. That's what we're using, and then you click on the screen to show where you want your clicks. Now it's as many clicks as you like. Apparently, Hashkahar has discovered. So it's you clicked on Reliant. We've had 216 clicks. I think you're going to have to break that mouse to get the Reliant there. It's time based. Oh, I see. So it's a heat map that's time based. Oh, this is really unhelpful. This is the most unhelpful it could be.
Is there a way to adjust it though? Like instead of doing the heat map to have like a general area, or because I think what you were saying before is accurate, that because these are too close together, you're getting crosstalk with different clicks areas.
So I think what you'd have to do is perhaps like bring it down to say like 5 different ships that were in 5 different points of the screen, and go, right, we're having basically a time-based clickathon. Go, and you sort of just hammer your fucking mouse. Yeah, pole won't work either. Too many ships.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh, okay. Well, we've learned that this doesn't work.
Okay,
that's fine. That's fine.
Like
failure,
right now,
failure is always an option. Fail forwards, fail off.
Fail forward.
Absolutely, that is.
But see, I like the way this looks. See, you got 30% there. You got 9%, 20, 23%. Like that makes sense.
Exactly. I like that.
Yeah.
As I say, we're just going to have to vote the thing. So awesome, interesting. I'm clicking on the Terrapin to steal Ashgar.
Nice.
There might be some legs to it. I shall have a bit more of a play around with it. So on a more sort of useful and serious note, we shall dodge back to this screen and turn that off. So this is the for all those who have joined in recent minutes of tomfoolery. Yeah, also click a success. That's very true. I still win. never doing
Yep.
the Avenger. That's not true. So for all those who have joined us in the last few minutes, this is our announcement of the 1 to 500 ships that we're doing this year. So the ones that are orange highlighted are ones that we have confirmed for Q3 this year. No, I need a new mouse. And the purpley pink highlighted ones are ones that we have now confirmed for the end of this year, Q4 this year. So this is our own chart infographic. It shows all the ships that we have to pick from at the moment, because they're in game and not Vandal. Basically, there are and they are ships. So the whole vehicles and stuff, they were only talking 1 to 500. There is a Dragonfly right down the bottom left, just for kicks. But so all the yellow ones, they're ones that are coming very soon. For all those who have just turned up, we've been going through the Cutlass Red model and the Cutlass Black model. So these are the cool little diorama 1 to 500s that are coming out in about a month's time. We have the Pisces ones. We still have the little arrow kicking around. Yeah, there are 7, I think, in total. Because the Lancers are coming. Well, let's go back to the chart.
Do you have the photo? Do you have the photo of the painted arrows?
Oh, yeah. Give me 1 second. This is, yeah. Let's stick that up. I will need to go into that. There we go. No, go away. Click. So yeah. So these are Lumphockeys, not Lumphockeys, Lupercals. Too many L's. These are Lupercal's paint jobs. So Lupercal won our paint contest, and he's been doing some painting for us. So we've got, so these are little 1 to 500 arrows. So these are these arrows, these little 1 to 500 arrows, and they are just, yeah,
so good.
So
they're ludicrously good.
Well, Death Ghost, he hasn't bought a few ships, so these are pre-released. So I say these are not the arrows that we've sold before. You actually get 4 of these in a pack for 15 quid. So these are teeny tiny dioramas, and yes, and those lanterns in the background are also 1 to 500 3-inch diorama models. So we have got Freelancer Der, Freelancer Max coming in Q3. We've also got the Pisces, the Arrow, the Cutlass Black, and the Cutlass Red. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 diorama models coming in the 1 to 500, and the Carrack, obviously, because we've been doing the sort of Carrack in open development. She's coming on very nicely. So that's getting there. So they're all going to be coming out Q3. These dioramas will probably come as of just a big lot by themselves pre-Carrack, I think. They're going to be ready. They're not far off, ready to go now. So that's fine. And then Q4, end of this year, before Christmas, we have the MSR in 1 to 500, which is a 4 and a bit inch model. It's, as we were saying before, it's roughly this size. It's roughly the size of the arse of the Carrack, basically. As a rough guide, so roughly the arse of the Carrack size and shape. No, it's not. Yeah, she got a big ass.
Is that like barleycorns or?
Yeah, that's like barley
Caracasses.
Caracasses. So that is confirmed, as is the Hercules. We're doing both the MSR and the Hercules in one drop, which should be nice. We've also got the Mantis, the Freelancer Miz, the Vanguard, the Sabre, the Buccaneer, and the Gladius. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dioramas and the Hercules models. So Hercules is kit model, as same as the Carrack. All the rest are dioramas. So what the idea of the heat mappy doodad idea was is to kind of have a look at this chart now and have a serious vote in chat. When I say go, not yet, stop it, Hashcast, stop writing Avenger. Yeah, you were, weren't you? I knew you were. So I can feel your hand hovering over that mouse. So let me just flip back to my other screen. So let's look at them not all in one go, because it's sort of a different question. So let's deal with kit models to start with. Now, I'm going to be honest, don't bother voting for these three yet. We don't have the technology to do them yet. They are year-long projects probably to do these kit models, and we need to learn how to do things or get bigger printers or something. Trust me, they're high on our list. Good God, I want to do the Reclaimer and stuff, definitely. Realistically, these are... The Reclaimer, I say, is a 14-inch model. Is 8 inches wide and about 6 inches high. Just get a bigger printer. I'd love to. They're £10,000 for the printer that's bigger than ours. I love one. And do you know what the laugh is? It still doesn't. Well, it does fit in it, but I mean, you could do a Reclaimer on ours, but roughly speaking, if we don't use new technology, if we did a Reclaimer model based on how we currently build our models, rough sales price would be about £300, because, and that's what we want to try and get down, because we want to be able to do a print of the main fuselage and cast that, and then have the 3D parts that go on top of it to bring that down, because it's like a 70-hour individual print. It's lunacy. Yeah, the Kraken for Sitcon. Yeah, that's in another league as well. So, that's really hard to post Royal Mail. You get really annoyed when you turn up with boxes that weigh half each. 819.
It's really hard to get up the stairs too.
Exactly. Ignore those for the time being. Okay, people, ignore those for the time being. So let's just look at kit models. So this is a really weird thing. There are only 3 left to choose from, believe it or not, unless I have missed a ship. Unless I have missed a ship that is 600i or bigger, but not as big as the Reclaimer, that's in-game, playable now, that isn't the Carrack or the Hercules, because they're both announced. I think it's just those 3, am I right? 600, Starfarer, Hammerhead. I can't, I mean, I think that's us. I think that's all we have to pick from at the moment. Obviously, new ones will be coming in, Merchantman and Hull C. How big is the Origin? Which one? Not in game. Oh, yeah. Yes, it has to be in game. Yes, 90-meter ship. So about a 7-inch model. So in chat, 1 vote each, please. Out of those 3, the 600, the Starfarer, or the Hammerhead, which would you like to see as a kit model at the start of next year? Go. Also interesting, the mole is here.
Yeah, that one's back.
Pointing on the right screen here. The mole is all the way down here, only just a bit bigger than a Max. Orion is big, not in game.
Yeah, it's going to be cool, that's for sure.
We get movable turrets on the Hammerhead. No, what I suspect it will be at this scale is a choice of turrets. So prints, a bit like we've done with the Carrack. So a print with the turrets in, print with the turrets out, print with the turrets flying in different directions, because it is a gunship. Hello, Nicotine. Just arrived. Right, we're voting, Nicotine, on Hammerhead, Starfarer, or 600i for the next 1 to 500 kit model next year. We've already announced the Hercules is coming at the end of the year, and the Carrack's already announced, obviously, because we're in the process of doing that. 600, Starfarer, Hammerhead. See, it's still all over the place, isn't it? I find this fascinating. There's not a criticism, and it's not a criticism. Certainly not criticism to you guys. It's also not a criticism to CIG. I think what they have done to be able to have a selection of so many ships that people love, genuinely love, evenly. It still blows my mind, even on that kind of macro level. Like, let's just pick between these three. We're still getting votes for all of them. Yeah. So there is a bit of a risk of the Starfarer and the 600 getting a bit of a rework. We will obviously check to see where that's coming. Everyone knows who we are, Death Ghost. It's probably a good point. That's Westbrook Drew. He's replacing my cat this week.
Hello. I'm a little more animated than a cat, hopefully.
You are a
little kitty.
Yeah, well, I do think the Starfarer should be due a big rework. But to be honest, if it is, we should see it soon because it's got to be done for refueling, surely. If they're going to launch refueling, it's going to be the Starfarer. So I can't see them rigging it for. I'd be surprised if they rigged it for refueling and then redid it again. But I might be wrong. Logic. So that's it. So that's interesting. Yeah, Intel. Well, so that's a really interesting point. At 1 to 500, what do we work out so it's about a 9-inch model. I don't mind about the internals changing. Not worried about that at all. Because, so to give you an idea, the Hercules, we will be able to see all the way through its cargo bay. The front and back doors will be swappable, all that kind of stuff. But you certainly won't have any of the decks and stuff above it and all that kind of stuff. Just too small. So as long as it's not going to change massively on the outside, I'm good with that. So that's cool. But yes, it is the oldest big ship that we've had. So I wouldn't be surprised if
that is true.
But I will obviously double check that before we take it on. So that's interesting. So about all over the place, as to be expected. So now let's have a look at the next row. The next row along. So if not really any point to me zooming in. We'll go to that. So we're just dealing with this row. The Max and the Vanguard are already approved. They're already on our roadmap. This is basically our roadmap. So votes in chat now. Caterpillar. Are we doing the tally? Again, we will check.
I would say skip the tally. It is pretty popular. A lot of people like it.
Yeah, put it in there if you want it, and then it still goes on popularity, and we will still be sort of we're checking Constellations, Valkyrie, or the Mole. So they're the ones to stick in chat now. What would your favourite out of this line here be? Obviously, ignore the MSR. That's already announced. We're definitely doing the MSR.
That's a tough one for me.
It's interesting. Still all over the map.
It's all over the place.
four Valkyries, 3 Moles, Connie.
Yeah.
But Firemaster, there's already a Connie available. It only costs like 1,500 quid to buy them from eBay. Would you make the cat with detachable ship as intended? Of course we would. Little magnets. To be honest, even as a diorama, I would still probably do. I'm not. This isn't me committing to this. I would probably try and make the cargo pods interchangeable as well if we had new cargo pods later on. I'd need to physically see it printed and see what sort of size it is. So to give you an idea of sort of like that's a good point. We should probably talk a little bit about price. The stuff on this row is probably around the £30-40 mark at the top, I would say, and then towards the bottom all the way down to the Max is about 18 quid. Just as rough guide prices. I said these are going from a 3 to a sort of 6-inch model. So that's quite interesting. Just make the insert. Hold on. I think the Caterpillar will make an absolutely lovely model. It's a long model. It's like 8 inches. It's just it's a cigar. You know, it's not a big bulky model. It's long, but it's not bulky. So next row, we'll just go for the whole thing. We'll just chop the. There we go.
That's a good question.
So,
would there be a talk if you did the Hercules?
So I have a good answer to this. Yes, but not as a separate kit, not as a separate diorama.
Gotcha.
So the same is true for the Carrack. The Carrack is coming with the Ursa Rovers, probably more than one. And they can only fit one in. I'm still going to give you more. And the Hercules will come with tonks, but they are so small in 1 to 500. They will just be a part of those ships' kits. I'm not going to sell them as a separate diorama accessory kits because they're just too goddamn small. And to be honest, this fleet thing is very much more a spaceship thing, not really doing vehicles. The only reason I've kind of put the Dragonfly on it, to be honest, is more for the Kraken, because it should have them. So again, it's probably going to be the only thing that comes with Dragonflies. Yes. Yes, the Carrack does come with a Pisces in the kit as well. So what we'll probably have in the actual kit for the Carrack is one of these prints that has a landed and an in-flight Pisces. And then there's a separate kit for that just with the Pisces in. So you get 4 in that kit. It's that whole thing. It's like I want to do them as separate things. I want my dream for the 1 to 500 range. I want people to be able to collect their whole fleet of ships. So we're going to ignore vehicles because they're just too goddamn small. But I'd love people to be able to collect their entire fleet in 1 to 500, which means one day we have to do javelins, and that's going to be a thing in itself. It's definitively going to be a thing in itself. And if we do javelins, I think we are going to have to really talk to the people who want them and wait till there's enough of them to warrant us making the model. Because my biggest worry with it is that we could spend a year building a workable javelin model, and then one person buys it. And we lose tens of thousands of pounds of development on an amazing model that no one's going to buy.
It'd be amazing for sure.
It'll be amazing. It'll look great on my wall, but you know, it would be so ridiculously expensive to develop it as a product. There'd need to be a decent number of people willing to part money for it.
So here's the size of the Ursa.
There you go. That is a 1 to 500 Ursa, everybody. So that to me does not seem worthy of its own product. Just cough and lose it.
It's very small.
It's very teeny tiny. There's a physical pixel.
Yes.
Would you be interested in making Port Olisar? I have sized up Port Olisar. Port Olisar in 1 to 500 is larger than my house. It is gargantuan. We'd have to do it in. We'd have to do ship stations in a brand new scale, 1 to 5,000 probably. Yeah. Even 1 to 5,000. I mean, it's what, 5 kilometers long, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that whole thing. Like everyone's like, oh, you know, when we had the Bengal come in, it was still dwarfed by the stations. The stations are beautifully huge. I love how small a house do you have? I have a 7-bedroom house. It's actually quite big. My
still
house
smaller
is
than
20,
the space station.
Yeah, it's 18 meters wide. My house, so it's it's not little. But no,
Nope.
The space stations are vast, absolutely vast. And I say Porto's like 5-6 kilometers long. It dwarfs things like the Bengal and things like that, and, which it should do. It's a space station, but yeah, we'd have to do a single landing strut for a diorama would be quite cool. When you think the big landing pad just about squeezes the reclaimer on, so that would look quite cool with the sort of like the building, and
that would be neat.
that you're talking as a very cool display, almost like an amazing display case. So one thing we were thinking about, now this is very much you're getting a bit of raw JR thinkage here. So this is not a commitment to anything. This is definitely not a commitment to anything. We have this is going to put Drew on the spot as well, which is not going to like. So yeah, all our kits are limited, right? And there are 500 of each of our kits. Now, you've probably expected, some people have asked, oh, who got 42? Well, there's only one human being that has ever received a number 42 of any kit, and he's sitting there, right? Because he asked me very, very nicely, and he did lots and lots of work for us. And I thought, yeah. So you have number 42 for 2 of them? 3 of them?
I believe two.
You have 2.
Yeah, just the 2.
And now I'm going to try and convince him to give me them back.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough ask.
So, who has 69? I can tell you who has number 69 Dragonfly. It is Silky's boyfriend, because I sold it to him at Liège Bar Citizen. So, that's the only one that I know that's got 69. So we've kept all the other 42s. You're the only person who's got any 42, because I've always wanted to kind of do a 42 edition. Right?
Yeah, that's we were talking about that.
Yeah, and it's just like, and what would a 42 edition look like? It would be bonkers. It would be actually gold plated, 24 karat gold plated. We've got a company down south that does gold plating of weird and wonderful things called Gold Genie. And we've been in talks with them over a couple of projects over the years. Not Star Citizen projects, but other projects. And I thought, I've always sort of thought about, what about actually doing like a 24 karat gold model or something? But yeah, very tempted to do a kind of 42 edition, fully gold plated. The reason I've got onto thinking about this is that it would come on a diorama or come in a display case or something like that. And it would just be absolutely, absolutely nuts. Yes, 24 karat gold. And yeah, it would just be like a completely one-off, get CR's signature on it, get all the stuff, and just be this insane collector's edition. So I've been musing about that for a while, but we'll see.
Well, I'll let you borrow it, and then when it's done, I'll just take it back.
Yeah, you can have it if I want it's built and gold plated. I'll lend it to you for a month. Deal. But yeah, no, I think that could be quite interesting. It was funny. I was packing some arrows and maxes up today, and it's like, what sticker did I put on? I put a number 302. I think was the highest sticker I got on with the arrows. So
wow.
We're over halfway sales wise, but yeah, actually on the shelf now we're over the 300 mark out of the 500. Freelancer Max, I did number 150.
Nice.
So that's over a quarter of the way through now. What else is over a quarter of the way through? The Dragonfly's over a quarter of the way through, not quite half. So they're going. I mean, it's, obviously we'd love things to sell faster, wouldn't everyone? But they are going through, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when we actually sell out of something. We've only got 24 Grey Cats left because we didn't actually do 500 Grey Cats because it was not. That was before we did limited edition cards and the decals and all that kind of stuff, because it was Not the transfer. It has water slide decals, but it doesn't have the holograms and stuff on them. And we didn't have a license for as many of the Grey Cats, the PTVs. So I think there's only 24 of those left now. We're still not going to do any more. I know they're not numbered limited, but we're still not going to make any more. It's mainly because that was how many our license was for, and we had all the artwork printed for it. I don't want to have another run of artwork and more foam and all that kind of stuff. It sort of is what it is. I'm going to feel really guilty if we sell out all the arrows before I've done another 1-100 model. It does seem really perverse that we've not done any more 1-100s, considering the arrow is our most popular ship. It's like, there's business studies people going, what the fuck are you doing? Stop doing freelancers! But I like freelancers!
But I like missed chips.
I like missing a Misk fanboy. Yeah, my accountant's saying there, tell me about these freelancers you keep making. But yeah, so okay, quick straw poll. If we were to do, what would Hashkahar just write Avenger in chat? And then which ship do you definitely never want us to make? Ha
Got him.
So yeah, if we do doing another 1-100 doesn't have to be as small as the arrow. So we'll use this chart. Why not? Since we've got it. So the next kind of 1-100s. So ignore the. It'd be really good if I could not have it all the way over here. It's as good as we've got. Right. So 1-100 ships. So it doesn't have to be as small as the out. Let's say we can go all the way size-wise to just below the event now. Probably all the way up to the Talon. Let's ignore the Reliant. Don't challenge me. I'm a Reliant. I know
you love it.
I fly it all the time, but there are so many things about that model that I want to do when I do it. To get it to B-wing and all that kind of stuff. It's a different kind of project.
So a whole another ball of wax.
Yeah. Talons also, I'm going to take the Talon off this list as well, maybe, unless there's a lot of people wanting it, because again, it's weird, foldy. Yes, clear cockpit, whole thing spins, leaving the pilots that turn inside. I want to do all of that works, and so any of these. So we've got Avenger, 300i, Terrapin, Hornet, Super Hornet, Gladiator. Drake ship, Herald, thank you. Mustang, Hurricane, Gladius, Hawk. I'll slap anyone who wants a Hawk. Again, for the same reason, it just folds in such a ridiculous way. 100 series. So this is the interesting thing. We're not talking about 1-500 ships now. We're talking about 1-100 ships, obviously much, much bigger. Stuff like the Aurora and the 100 series, we would do each of the different ships as a separate kit, but we do them all together. So things like the Aurora, we do all the different Auroras, but let's just call it Aurora for the time being. Same with the Avenger. We'd have all the different Avengers, but we would tackle it as one project. So Auroras, 100 series, Buccaneer, 85X, M50, Razor. Yeah, we could do an Archimedes kit. That'd be quite cool. The Argo. I'd love to do an Argo. I think that'd be amazing.
Argo would be sweet.
And ignore the Dragonfly. So, yeah. So, Terrapin or Super Hornet. The Hornet's too iconic too. I am... I've asked this question before, and I've been told an answer, and I don't believe the answer. Is the Hornet going to stay in game as it currently is, or is it going to get replaced with the Squadron version, the F7C? because the current Hornet models are so old and janky. Surely they're going to get replaced with the newer one. I don't know. I'd be so. I know they're going to keep them in game. They've said they're going to keep them in game, but I think as museum pieces as they currently sit. But yeah, so Mustang, they completely reworked the Mustangs to make them usable. I can't. How can they not do the same with those janky Hornets?
Well, they've done it with the 300. They've done it with the Mustang. You know, it's just kind of expected that they're going to do it with the Hornet too, right?
Yeah, I mean, they if CR has like an amazing affinity for the Hornet, I completely get that. I think it's one of the ones he helped design and all the rest of it. They could just take the model they've got and redraw it to look exactly the same effectively, but it work with the item system, the current version in ICF, and pull its thrusters on properly and have its landing gear not half fold out of its wings, and all the things they need to do to make it work in the same way that, you know, it does at the moment. Then I suppose it could look the same. But if I was doing a Hornet, I will say this: I have no issue with doing a Hornet model in 1-100, but I would do the F7A. Because we've got that for Squadron, we've seen it, it's in-game enough in the same way that the Idris is in-game. I'd have no issue with doing that as a kit model. And then coming back to the Super Hornet and the Hornets later when I feel they've settled enough to be what they're going to be. One of the big advantages we've got at the moment is they're going through their Gold Pass sequence. So they've just done the Gladius, they're doing Sabre. The Gold Pass, I don't think they are going to do a Gold Pass on a ship that isn't effectively done, finished, and they're not going to come back to it. Because it's a lot of work to get every component to fit into it, get all the panel lines for all these doors on it. If they were going to come back and take another pass at a ship, they're not going to spend all that time to do it. So I think that if something's had a gold pass, it is nailed down. Not to say there won't be tiny tweaks as new systems like fire suppression system. There might be fire nozzles they add on the inside or something. But if they've done a gold pass, they're not going to go and redesign the hull of it or something dumb like that.
I agree.
I'm still annoyed you made the MSR so big, Curtis. Gonna get Ben Curtis in one day to explain himself.
Explain this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stop it. Dear. What do people think of the new Jean cargo ship?
I like it.
I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know what I don't know what I kind of expected from it. We obviously knew it was coming from CitizenCon. It was one of the ships they mentioned then. It's bigger than I thought it was going to be.
It's a heck of a lot bigger than I expected. That to me is what was the most stunning thing. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, it's like the cargo version of the Santok Yai and the Cartual. Like, make it bigger. And when I went through the Inside Star Citizen and kind of saw, like, yeah, you can see like the people in the picture, but when you see the interior and all the different levels, and it's just like, wow, this thing is huge. I was really impressed with that. It looks really cool too. I love the shape changing and the high tack, like super high tack. It's a really unique ship. I really dig it.
Yeah, and I think it's I saw a picture of it. I can't remember whether it was an official Star Citizen picture or not. And yeah, it was the way it had its cargo on the back. Now, are the cargo pods that you see, are they removable? And therefore, you've got to just go around the verse buying triangular things? Or is it like they are their own cargo boxes and you put all the cargo inside it, a bit like they've said that we'll have to with the whole series?
Yeah. That's the idea. They're fixed. They said they're fixed on the outside.
Okay.
And yeah, so they're similar to like the whole series, like Anji's saying.
Because obviously, I mean, you can drop the whole series pods off,
Mm-hmm.
but we haven't. Well, we don't know yet. Let's be honest. Right?
Don't know. Yeah.
We really don't know. So this here is why you won't be getting a model of it for a while. I mean, holy crap.
Hey, Bart. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, how you doing, mate?
Welcome to the stream.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. I love its turrets. I love the front aspect. The alien ships. It looks very non-human. Do you know what I mean? I love the way that it's just like trying to get that sort of big X profile on the front coming towards you. It's not how we would ever design a ship. Do you know what I mean? It is very sort of alien-y. Obviously, from a modeling point of view, I do love the Jean's floaty stuff. That makes making models real easy. Oh no, wait. But yeah, no, I don't know what our first alien ship's going to be. I'm sort of ignoring the Nox because I think that'll. It's probably going to be, if I'm honest, the Merchantman. Because hello, Flan. JR. I had a friend that I went to uni with called Owen Graham, and he's an amazing Irish lad who now works for Blue Origin. He's a rocket engineer for Blue Origin. It annoys me that, you know, he makes real spaceships and I only make toy ones. No, the thing that always used to wind me up was him with it. He had a very stereotypical Irish accent, and you know, my commonly used name is only made up of 2 letters, and he couldn't pronounce either of them. So, Jayor is like, God damn it. He was proper 33 and a third. He was made, but the laugh was he went to university in Cambridge, and to us, I met him at a sort of engineering year in industry thing, and to us he had the most like ridiculous leprechaun Irish accent, and we used to go over to see him in Ireland, and all his friends would mock him for having an English accent because he'd been in England for like 3 years, and as far as they heard, they could hear the English accent coming through. It was like, how can you say this man has an English accent?
That's amazing.
I could put him on a Macy's float. He was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, Jayor. Like, thanks for that. Man. But yeah, so I think the first alien ship will probably be the Merchantman, just because I think it'll make an epic 1 to 500 model.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome! Yeah,
you know, we'll see it pretty soon, and then I'll drop the Defender, and the Defender's got to be one of those interesting ones from a bigger ship model point of view. If we go back to a chart of loveliness, the Defender is here. It's bigger than you think, and mainly because his arms are nearly over half the size of the bleeding ship. So it does make that. It does make that part of it. I've lost my other chart. So yeah, it's got its lovely arms on it and everything, and it's going to be difficult to do as a bigger model. But yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'm a fan of the alien ships. I've not found one yet that I'm willing to say that I would want to fly. I don't think I mean, I suppose the MISC ships are sort of part alien, but I'm not as huge. I'm not enough of a fan of them to want to fly them. I think, to be honest, there's a lot of really good alien sort of alien combat ships at the moment, isn't there? Ones I am looking forward to doing 1 to 100 are the Crusader Industries, the size 7 weapon ones. Getting
Ares.
Yeah, we got some sneak peeks of the Ares, didn't we? On recently, I think, on Star Citizen Roundup.
I think so.
Show
Yeah.
some of the white boxing of it may even be post. They're in for Q4, aren't they? They're not in the 3.14 patch. I mean, they're just a fighter with a really big gun on it. So
yeah,
I mean,
it's just a huge
gun. How hard
with a
could
ship.
it be? It's a really big gun and a little ship attached to it. I mean, the thing is, though, a size 7 gun is massive. It can't be a tiny ship. I mean, just the gun itself is a size 7 is vast,
massive. Just go to Hurston and check out the showroom. You'll see. I think they got a size 7 in there.
Just absolutely vast. Letzing, so this is an interesting point from Letzing. Why make it so this is going back to the Shan cargo ship. Why make it so complicated? I guess if that's your intrinsic technology, perhaps it's not complicated to them. Perhaps getting stuff it reminds me a bit of like the of Star Wars, in that everything floats in Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? You've got little speeders and stuff. It's like you have to accept in the Star Wars universe, the ability to make something defy gravity is like as easy as buying a pencil. It's just like, it's just got this anti-gravity drive. It just floats there. That's fine. You can just be on like Jakku and have these beaten up as hell things that don't look like they hold together, but it'll float.
It still floats anyways.
Without even thinking about it. Just like, wait a minute. So if you've cracked that as a eureka moment, that's how you get things to defy gravity. Oh, that's really simple. That'll be much easier than cables.
So easy.
And it's defying gravity, not even pushing down. It's not even got lift. It's just genuinely ignoring gravity as a method of hovering. It's just like, and it's just, cool. I mean, there's definitely nothing we could use to make the world better with this technology. No, we're just going to make all our vehicles float and leave it at that.
Everything float. It looks cool.
Yeah, I don't get it at all. Yeah. So I guess the Xi'an have the same thing. They've got that Star Wars ability to make things float really easily, technology that's just easier than having hinges and moving parts. I suppose it's got to be as far from a Drake ship as humanly possible, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Not to say there aren't some air gaps in Drake ships, but it's usually where things are falling off rather than intricately floating.
Right. Just pieces falling off randomly.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, I still think when we get round to having the fully animated things where you press the button, when you're in a Drake ship, they should have to pound on the thing to get it to go into flight ready, and just there should be just little
kick the thing.
Just like once every 40 animations, you get a spanner comes out and just wellies the console to get a Drake ship.
Yes, please.
But
that's immersion right there.
Well, it is, and I genuinely think that Star Citizen has enough humour to actually do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like on an Origin ship. Every so often, when you're clicking buttons, your little finger will be out when you're clicking the buttons. It just it's got to. There's got to be little things like that. I think too.
Exactly, and that can differentiate even more. Yeah. Just from your
it might be
character's
something we
perspective.
see from NPCs rather than our own animations. It might be your typical Drake pilot spends more time yelling at his ship, and then they got the typical
beating
Origin pilot. Yeah, just
exactly.
I really do hope we just occasionally see Drake ships slightly on fire when they're landing, and that just being perfectly normal. And there just be this crew deck hand that just comes over, puts it out, and just takes the thing back, and just has Drake written on the fire extinguisher. Needs to be applied when landing.
That sounds amazing.
Perfectly normal, especially in places like Levski. It's just like 1 in 10 ships has a little bit of being on fire about it. Brown alert. That's probably one of my favourite Red Dwarf moments. I'm a huge Red Dwarf fan, but I think one of my favourite lines for Red Dwarf is, "Red alert, sir, are you sure? It does mean changing the bulb." And that is exactly how I want Drake ships to be. It's just, I want them to be that rubbish.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I want there to be so much that has to be beaten. Going into Quantum, you should have to cross your fingers in a Drake ship, I think, especially if it's not brand new. Just, there's a 50% chance an engine will fall off or something. I don't hate Drake ships. I used to hate Drake ships. They were in the same category as Origin ships, where I was very pleased they existed, loved the art style of them, very glad they exist in the verse, but I wouldn't get in one. But I've had a loner Caterpillar for so long now, it's sort of won me over.
It's grown on you? Like bacteria?
Like bacteria, with the possible exception, and this goes back to a comment we're talking about the model of the Caterpillar. Will the command module come off? The one thing I wish CIG had done to the Caterpillar, and obviously it's just on the list of things to do when they do the ship-to-ship docking pass on it, is why can't you get in the command module? I appreciate it's a long way off the ground when it's attached to the Caterpillar, but it is such a ball-achingly long trip to get out of a Caterpillar.
Yeah.
There's the cargo around and through the door, then through engineering, then up to a corridor, then across the corridor, then into the command. It's like, oh, just give me a ladder. Just give me a rope ladder. I don't care. I just want to be able to get into the command module.
Exactly.
There's a perfectly usable door on the side of it that we're not allowed
Direct
to
access, please.
Yeah. Yeah, same with the Starfarer. Absolutely. The Starfarer has too long a run to get out of the damn thing. Saying that, I know we're moaning about that, and I do agree. But how long does it take you to get onto a cargo ship bridge in the real world? It isn't just a door on the side and you're on the bridge.
You walk right in, yeah.
There is an argument to say these massive transport ships, this is a huge vessel for moving things. I think the problem is that we spend our life solo piloting these damn things. So, I mean, it was fun because we've been doing some mining and stuff. I mean, the most ludicrous mining ever because a rock DS with one person operating it, which frustrates the living hell out of me. It's like, because I made the mistake of using the Rock's DS laser to break apart a rock, and then went, oh well, I'll just break the other one apart. That was a bad move because when it exploded, it showered all of the other ones from the first one everywhere. And picking those up in a Rock DS when you don't have a separate drive, it's a fucking ball ache. Now I've got to get out and move it 3 fucking meters, get back in. So I went around and picked them up by hand because it was just quicker.
So vote for your favorite person now.
Favorite person? Oh, is it in the? Oh, it's on the smart click thing. Wait a minute. I've got to. I don't have it on this scene. Wait a minute. Gonna have to. Oh God! You're testing me, people. You're testing.
Oh, there you go. Now you got it up. It's back on.
Right, there we go. So you can vote for whoever should get slapped in the face more. Hey!
Hey, it's working. See, it works.
Yeah, it does work. Who's voting up there? This must be broken.
It's both? That's a both?
Oh, that's a both. Okay. That's hilarious.
Oh, this is the best.
I'm sure this thing. You have. I'm sure this thing has usage. For anyone who's missed why we have this, we were trying to use it as a method of voting on this for the next sort of next best starship sort of thing, for models, and it's not, as you can see by its random square drawing.
A little janky, yes.
It's a little. To be honest, I only actually saw what I would consider real professional YouTubers using it to select which kind of Apex Legends character they were going to choose out of a selection of 3 and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we've established how useless it is for our purposes. So it's a heat map. So it relies on the number of clicks you do, and it's like so if you absolutely welly your keyboard onto one, it sort of registers clicks. So it's registered 192 clicks. So it's not a great voting system. It's just who's willing to break their keyboard more. Their mouse.
Or their mouse.
But yeah, I'm sure we can use it for something. We'll just have to have a think about what we can use it for. We should probably talk about our since we're coming to the end of the stream now. We should talk about our path to Twitch affiliate. So
yes.
I turned subs off when we started streaming way back when. I turned we're drawing.
We're trying.
I don't know what we're
fun.
voting for now. I don't know what the vote is for. Which one of us you'd like to click on more, apparently, is what this vote has become.
John Rabbit with clicks. See? It is useful.
It's sort of peer through it. Now you're winning.
Yes, I've gotten back to the lead.
I won the internet. So when we started doing streaming as JRDF, we turned subs off because we knew we wouldn't be streaming particularly regularly. We also knew when we got massive event gigs, we would just disappear for 3-4 months because we wouldn't have the time to stream and things. And we'd be so caught up in NDA stuff that we couldn't say anything anyway. But through COVID and what have you, it's been like, well, we should totally try and do that again. And now that we're doing, my finger hurts, but it was worth it. So not anything to do with clicking on the streamer. Is that something you just don't want to talk about? With the Carrack being in open development and us being able to, actually go in and show off stuff that we're building and, do kind of live model-y bits because we're not keeping everything all sort of NDA and secret, it gives us more to talk about on streams. So I thought, we'll kind of go back and try and do a weekly stream. Also, it's just me doing it, and that's easier and quicker because it's more at my sort of time of being awakeness anyway. And single PC streaming is so much easier than trying to do 2 PCs and all the sound debacle that's involved with that. So it is a lot easier for me just to have a green screen and natter and stuff. So I tried to turn subs back on, and since we turned subs off, 1,000 clicks a second. I'm going to turn this off now because I'm just sort of looking through a 27% and it's bizarre.
There you go.
I tried to turn subs back on because people were asking, can we sub? Because, it gets rid of the adverts. I hate watching Twitch streams that I'm not subbed to. It's a pain in the ass. So I was like, yeah, no worries. We're going to stream at least weekly now. That's the plan. I'll turn subs back on. No subs for you. Because since I turned them off, you can only be subbed. You can only turn subs on if you're affiliate. So hence our path to affiliate down there. And it'll take us the rest of the month to do it, but we should cruise through to it because really it's not about the followers because we already have 800 followers. It's not about the average viewers because that's 10 times what it needs to be. It's just about streaming on 7 different days within a 30-day period. And obviously stream for 8 hours during the 30 days is piss easy anyway. So it's really just we have to stream 7 days. So if we carry on streaming Wednesdays and Sundays, we will end up losing one of the 3 out of 7 we currently have because that was actually from 2 weeks ago before we went away down south. So we'll actually lose one of those. So we still need to do another 4 streams after this one in our current Wednesday-Sunday cycle, and then we'll be affiliate. And yay! We'll be affiliate. We can turn subs on, and between now and then, I have 4 more streams to work out how to do giveaways because we are going to do some giveaways. Why
yeah,
yeah.
That'd be
exactly. So we'll come up with the suitably JRDF. Hello, Chris Harrow. Welcome. We'll find a suitably JRDF-y way to do giveaways. What will we be giving away? Not 100% sure yet. I mean, giveaway for used filament. So there's a few things I'd like. It's bizarre. There's a few things I would like to give away, and I need to ask permission whether I can. So we have a colossal box of failed prints, like prints that like didn't work, test prints. We don't throw any of them away because I think they would make the most amazing Dumpers Depot diorama, or like the trash pile biome diorama type thing. So I'd love to give away like a kilo of them or something. Just like literally have it, here's a box. So we're giving away a 2-kilo box of diorama bits of models, all in one scale. So I have them in 3 boxes. I have a 1 to 40, 1 to 100, 1 to 200, so that they don't all get mixed together. So like I will gently mix them all together so not to smash them into millions of pieces, and then just go, right, here's 2 kilos worth of them. I'd like to give that away as scenery diorama. And it'll be that whole thing. You literally get a box of freelancer engines, and because it's all that kind of stuff. You won't be able to build a freelancer out of them. It's because it's usually just one fucking part that we had issues with, and we couldn't get couldn't get it to work. So I'd like to give those away if we're allowed to. Have to ask COG about them. We could obviously give away discount codes, sort of for free diorama kits and stuff like that. I need to try and work out how to. This is more of an internal thing I'm saying to Drew. Really, need to work out how to do on Shopify if we can do a free diorama with free shipping code without it just allowing people to have free shipping on a big order. I'm not sure how that works. Going to have to look that up.
Okay,
we'll work it out. We're working that out. So we can give. I'd like to give away stuff that people are having to pay postage on. Would be good. And we can give away one-off big discount codes, or we can get there's loads of stuff we can look at. And once every in the blue moon, a couple of times a year maybe, we could actually give a kit model away, which should be kind of cool.
That'd be super cool.
There's also stuff we can there'll be other stuff. We can also give away non-Star Citizen related shite that we build every so often. I have shelves of cool prints that I've done that people would probably like, and just like I have a box of my magnetic replicator bits that I still haven't painted yet. So I might paint them.
That's
up
awesome.
And give some of those away because they're awesome. I love those. And so we'll do some cool giveaways. Giveaways you're not going to
find anywhere else.
Yeah, that's it. Because like streamers do giveaways, but they're giving away ships or like in-game ships and stuff. We won't be giving away any of that kind of stuff. It'll all be our stuff. The issue we have is obviously we have to post everything we give away, but it's fine. Yeah. We just have to factor it in. But I kind of want. So I used to still watch Grey-Headed Gamer stream, but he used to do giveaways. And he hasn't done giveaways in ages. But I kind of want to do giveaways like he did. So he had subs on and tiers of subs, and the more subby you were, the more tickets you got in thing. JRDF t-shirts. I would like JRDF t-shirts as well, Death Girls. I would love JRDF t-shirts. I want to talk like the one that Drew's wearing. The one that Drew's wearing is a work t-shirt.
It is.
Does it have your name on the back, or is that a crew one?
Yes. No, it's got my name on the back.
You'll have to stand up. We can't see it.
Nope.
It's always JRDF. Yay! So yeah, all of our insane. So when we do events, we reach out to you great people for volunteers because volunteers are awesome, and you need a lot of events, I mean, look how many CIG you have for running events. You always need volunteers. Always makes your day a lot easier. So we try to look after our volunteers more than CIG do. That's not me bitching about CIG, but we do give our volunteers somewhere to sleep some food to eat, t-shirts,
some shirts,
like that.
some clothes to wear,
So
food, shelter, and clothing. It's
food
great.
yes, basically food, shelter, and clothing is what we give out. And certainly for CitizenCon, last CitizenCon, we did personalised shirts as well. So all of our volunteers got personalised shirts, and need volunteers. We always need volunteers. What we need even more than volunteers is events to go to need volunteers.
Yes.
So once they come back, we will be putting it out there. Yes, I had this amazing debate with Flan at GHG's barbecue at Terry Black's about CIG volunteers, everything they have to pay for, the journeys they have to do. It costs you more to be a volunteer for CIG because you've got to stay there longer. That's the thing that gets me. It's just like, it's so CIG, isn't it? Oh, yes, you come and volunteer for us and we'll give you, you have to spend more money to work for us. It's just like, wait a minute. This is wrong somehow. Yeah, I know, right? So we try our best to cover. We don't pay your travel because I don't know where you're coming from. But yeah, so we tend to try and do this. I say no idea when the next event's going to be that we're going to be going to. So, but we will be putting out volunteers if we need extra volunteers, and we've also roped in volunteers on the days as well. I've not seen Brim in here, but if on the sort of photo reel at the beginning, you'll see Brim helping me a huge amount build the game glass stand and stuff. He'll remember that.
Yep.
But yeah, no, volunteers are always welcome. I will say, on a serious note, volunteering for CIG is actually quite cool. I would want them to pay a little bit more of the expense if it was me, but they do have a lot of volunteers. They do give you cool ships, though. Last year, everyone got a carrack. So, I mean, it's not... If you're into that kind of bribery, I suppose, they got a carrack. So yeah, I wasn't too shabby. Sort of thing.
It's not too bad.
If you consider that to have monetary value, whereas I consider it, they gave you a free digital asset that cost them nothing. But hey ho.
Says the guy with the hammerhead.
Yeah, who got paid with a hammer? God damn it! We'll put it this way: when Leela was asked, because Callie's daughter came to CitizenCon, when she was asked who she wanted to volunteer for, JRDF or CIG, she was like, "Yeah, I'm working for CIG." It's like, he's like, "I get a carrack," and it's like, "Damn it,
damn it!"
But you get a T-shirt from us. It's like, "Yeah, I've still got the T-shirt. You've already had it printed." It's like, "God damn it, burn your T-shirts." Intelligent child that she is. Yeah.
It's time and money, Death Ghost. Time and money. You can do it.
Yes. But yeah, no, I think realistically, the next event we do, we'll do some more swag. Well, to be honest, from a point of view of JRDF swag, I would like to do some actual T-shirts. Like everything we do, I don't just want to get like Redbubble T-shirts. So, who is it? Who does that 80s show on Star Citizen Base Radio? I've forgotten her
Relay?
name. Someone help me. Miss Hearts. Thank you. Brain just being really slow. So Miss Hearts, I think, is actually doing T-shirt printing, but like proper screen printing. I love the idea of screen printing. I would love to try screen printing. It blows my mind watching good people do it. It's one of those like I watch so many screen printing videos, even though I've never ever done it. And if you've never seen someone do RGB screen printing, it will blow your mind. Like how you can have like 4 screens and use the like 3 colors, black or no, white if you need one as well, if you need a 5th one, and just draw solid color ink out on a light exposed screen and get a perfect RGB color image is just, it just blows my mind. It really does. And it's something I'd love to have a go at. But it's one of those things, if we do JRDF merch, as in cool t-shirts with cool designs on them, that are very much us, I would want to get someone like her to make them for us, because again, support small companies, and someone's going to put a lot more love into them, and it means we can do completely bespoke, put artwork wherever we want on them. I'd need to talk to her or someone equivalent who's doing a similar thing to find out what kind of production runs they need to do, because it's one of those things like you have the big setup, like the big sort of screen printing rigs. You're not just doing one, you're doing dozens and dozens and dozens at a time. So I'd need to find out like what the minimum sort of run would be to not have them be ludicrously expensive. And that clothing's really awkward because you've got to pick your sizes. So potentially we could do a pre-ordery type thing on. We could do we could potentially do a pre-order type stuff on t-shirts and go, right, we're having them made. Miss Hart's whoever is going to make them on X date. Get your orders in before then for sizes and everything, and then we can just have them all made in one big batch and actually make them a limited design, so only those people who ordered before that date get that design. Could be quite cool.
That's cool.
For ultimate exclusivity.
Ultimate.
All about that. Oh, you didn't get that t-shirt? Never gonna get it again. These ones.
Sorry, check eBay.
So yeah. So these. This obviously a Gamescom 17 t-shirt, and these. So if anyone's ever been to Gamescom and bought a t-shirt there, they do it in quite an interesting way, and it's quite a clever way. So they don't pre-do these. They make these in front of you, sort of, kind of.
Oh wow.
Because there's so many designs. Like every year, Gamescom do 20 odd different artwork designs for their t-shirts, and you can have them on about 5 or 6 different colors, and obviously 5 sizes. So when you actually work that out, it's just so they'd have to have each little stand around the event that's selling t-shirts would have to have so much stock on it. So what they do is they have the t-shirts and they have these transfers, and they actually have the heat presses on every single merch stand, and they just make them up for you as you order them. And it's quite clever because it means that the t-shirts they haven't used, they can use next year because they haven't put decals on them. So the only thing they're throwing away are these aren't screen printed. These are they're high quality t-shirt transfers like Redbubble use. So they're still as good as you'll get from Redbubble and places like that, but they are high-end digitally printed heat transfers that go onto t-shirts. And they're done in a similar way to decal printing, in that they lay down a layer of white ink on a printer and then print colors on top, and then you transfer the white ink and with all this with a heat press onto the
stuff on top of it. Right.
It does work. And I say, for Gamescom, such a good idea. It means that they can have so many cool designs every year. And I'm sure there are some people that rock up and go, I want every single design, please. They'll collect all of them. But I think I got 2 or 3 when I was there. I'm only going to get one.
Cool.
And then I was there for a week. And it's like, yeah, I want another Gamescom t-shirt. Give me another. But yeah, so that's quite a cool way of doing it. I think properly screen printed t-shirts are much higher quality. These transfers, because it's literally just heat pressed onto the fabric, the ink doesn't go in very far. The ink isn't going into the t-shirts at all. It's just sitting on top on a print. Whereas properly screen printed t-shirts are, the ink is going into the fabric. And it pops a lot more. It looks really cool. And I'd always assumed that you couldn't get the same sort of detail. You can get far higher detail with screen printing than you can with transfers. It is just, Yeah, more expensive hobbies. I know, right? This is why, to be honest, the biggest thing that's stopping me having a go at it is that I don't have a big enough empty space to try it. Because when you see the guys that like got proper full setups, it fills a room. Because you've got to have, you can get the little kits like 120 quid, and it's probably more effort than it's worth, if I'm perfectly honest. When you see the people with like the full, you don't even need that full set. I think that your basic one has 4 screens on it, and you spin it round, and that gives you enough to do like 4 different colors, because you've got to do it all in one go, and then you've got to have a heat chamber that bakes the ink on. And what they tend to have is they stand still at their workstation. You've got 4 t-shirts or whatever you're doing on the slid onto the boards and attached to the boards, and then to your right or left, depending whether you're going clockwise or anti-clockwise, you have a heater. So you do your draw of ink, you spin it round, and then that t-shirt goes under the heater while you draw the ink onto your next one, and then you spin it. Now, once you get good enough, that means that the t-shirt spends the exact amount of time under the heater that it needs to, no more, no less. So when you're learning, what happens is you set fire to a lot of t-shirts. It seems to be. And it's just like, and literally, these are like 7 kilowatt heaters, so they bake the ink in seconds. So I've watched videos of people like, they stop and chat to the camera, and you can literally just see the t-shirt catch fire behind them because they've left it under the heater for like 30 seconds, and it's just inflamed.
Too long.
Hilarious.
Yep.
Wow. So then you sort of keep doing that, and then it basically comes back round to you, and then you sort of carousel it over, and then you've got one carousel and another carousel, so you move the top carousel round one, so you've got your next color, and then you're drawing your next color. It's one of those things. It's a bit like plastering. Watching people do it that are good at it is just, I could watch that stuff all day. I don't know if anyone else does this. I absolutely love to watch skilled professional makers make things. I can just watch them do their job when it's that kind of just beautiful. It's all about sort of muscle memory, and just like they're so good and so precise at what they do. They make it look easy. I love watching stuff like that.
I gotta say, I did
processes.
Yeah, I did plaster work when I was working in this building for about 8 years. So,
oh, nice.
Because all the walls are all plaster here, so you had to learn quite a bit about how to use plaster and how to form it, and lots of sanding, lots and lots of sanding.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like this is a new build. I started building this house when I was 24, I think, and still haven't finished it. And so I've been working on this for 12 years now. So, yeah, a third of my life I've been building this house. Just worked that out. That's quite scary. And well, the other worst thing is, I suddenly realised it's just like someone said. I said, well, at least I'm still on track to finish it before, like Cologne Cathedral or something. And they just turned around and went, you do realise the Great Pyramid of Giza was built in 10? Just like, fuck, bastard. It's like, really? Damn it. So this house is now taking me longer than the Great Pyramid of Giza. They did have a lot more people involved.
They did. Many more people.
Many more.
That is true.
It was also a fairly simple shape. So, and not a lot of rooms.
It's really easy.
As well. I mean, the interior decorating, they really just didn't bother with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is true.
Yes, Adam Savage is a maker god. Adam Savage is a maker god. Completely agree. I would definitely like to meet him one day. It would involve going to.
That would be very cool.
Suspect. I would love to meet him. I'd love to have a drink with him. I think that's the thing. He's one of those people that I think it would frustrate me just to meet him, to say hi, because I have so many questions. It's the sort of person I want to get stuck in an elevator with or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so he can't run away. It's like, you will.
Exactly.
And but I'll tell you what, I was thinking the other day, I was watching Mythbusters because Amazon ridiculously put all of Mythbusters on Amazon Prime. So that was like, as soon as I saw it, it's like, that's a month of my life gone.
Yep.
So watching it right from the beginning.
That's amazing.
And he is so young in the first series of Mythbusters, with still when he had all these piercings in and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I was thinking, how old was he when he started Mythbusters? And only 2 years younger than me. So I've still got Adam Savage's career ahead of me, potentially. I don't think so, but in theory, it's not too late. It's not too late. Yeah, because he's like 50 odd now, but he wasn't when he started. So
there you go.
He has got so much better with age, though. I think it's one of those.
Yeah.
Well, when you watch those initial series of Mythbusters, you actually realise that, yeah, okay, they weren't unskilled, but they do make some twatty schoolboy errors. At the start of that. I mean, oh my god, setting themselves on fire and things like that. I mean, oh jeez, they do make some stupid mistakes.
Yeah, I love his like that's what I was gonna say. Like, I love what he does with the tested and the his channel, and just some of the things. Like, he's just like, he's so meticulous, and he does things to the next level and does it correctly. And he's like laser focused. Like he did like these nightstands, I think it was, and the proper dub joints, and did all the proper way to do it, and making this solid piece of furniture. And it was really cool to kind of see that process, So.
Oh, absolutely. And he is one of those people that I love for the amount of skills he teaches himself. I think that's the big thing for me. Is like he'll take on something that he's never done before because he's never done it, and then the joy of him doing it is working out how to do it and how to do it. Yeah. It's not just like he doesn't fudge it. It's like, I want to learn how to do this properly,
correctly.
And even if he only ever does it once in his life, he's done it that once in his life.
Then he's done it right the one time. Exactly.
I'll be very interested to see what he does with his printer, because he's got the 3L.
I am too. He does.
And I mean, not that I'm jealous, but for him to give him, loaned him a 3L.
Yes.
You're really going to ask Adam Savage for your printer back, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to send that back, Adam. Yeah. No, you've not done anything. I mean, to be fair, I've not seen it since he built a table for it. I think that's all he's done for it so far, is built a table for it to sit on. Which I find really amusing, that he's done a video about making the thing it sat on, but not done a single video on it.
Not a single thing. I think somebody mentioned something about a helmet earlier, which was kind of that's the idea, right? You can make a helmet with Form 3 now, but you need the Form 3L to do something that full size, so you don't have the seams, you don't have the connections.
You also still need a fairly small head, if we're honest. I genuinely think I would struggle to make a helmet in a 3L that fit my head. I mean, one that would, perhaps like a sort of very who's am I thinking of? From X-Men.
Magneto?
A Magneto helmet that's like virtually flush fitting and just does that. I think I'll be fine. But anything like Star Citizen-esque, where it's just got, it's significantly large. Thank you.
Right.
Significantly larger than the actual head, would not fit in a Form 3L and still squeeze over my head.
That's the hard part.
It's
gotta fit.
Not that big. It is not that big. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy helmet. That would be awesome. And yes, poor Grant Imahara. They did crowdfund some project at the university at MIT that I did see. They had got their crowdfunding to make this Grant Imahara study Zen space or something. I can't remember what it was for, but they did raise all the money, which is really cool.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and it is sort of really quite bizarre when you're sort of watching Mythbusters back. I guess I'm feeling old because I'm getting to that point in my life, looking at the programs I used to watch live, going, "Well, they're dead now. Well, they're dead now.
Yeah.
Me next."
Oh, no.
It's just like, it's not good.
Yeah. Happens to the best of us, I guess.
I mean, that was tragic, but it's It is weird watching them back now. I say it was so young, but no, I think what Tested have done during lockdown has been really interesting. I find that really, really interesting because, I mean, Adam was basically on his own with his phone for about a month in the workshop. And that was really nice, actually, to sort of see him working on his own, because he has a couple of people now that clean up after him. I would love that.
That's amazing,
I've
right?
made it when there is someone actually employed to tidy my shit away behind me, because I am a ludicrously messy worker when I'm building anything. And it's not that I need to work in mess, but I can. And that's the problem. It's the fact I can work at... I hand on heart, I think 90% efficiency, even when in the most chaos I can produce for myself. I'm sure Cal's and other people would say it was closer to 60. It's not. Genuinely, can other people can't work in my mess. That is the main issue. Everyone else's productivity drops down to 40%. I'm still running at 90 because I still know where everything is, because it's where
everything is, exactly.
You know, and over a 3-month project, that becomes that nothing is where it started and everything is everywhere. But I still work slightly better, and everyone's mood is better if we're in a tidy workspace. It's just that I don't produce those. I like the process at the end of a project when you come back from a massive job and you know the first thing you have to do is put the shop back together, put everything away, tidy all the tools away. You'll have no doubt bought a few things for that job. Find places for them to go. You might have to build some things for them to go in. Unfortunately, I'm now at the point where I physically don't have room for all the tools I own. Not by a long stretch. They all go in and just get stacked in the corner. But it's fine. They're away. I know where they are. They're in labeled boxes, so it's fine. No night, Death Ghosts. Oh, no,
see you, Death Ghosts. Have a great one. Thanks for stopping by, brother.
Really, yes, I do sometimes. She's spying on me. She is. Yes, I do. Occasionally, I tidy up after gigs. But yeah, I quite like them. But as I say, I think that sometimes I do feel my issue. I do feel my issue is that there isn't enough room. I need a bigger work.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, I have no excuses. I genuinely have no excuse. You've only got to watch Adam Savage in his cave to realise that he works in chaos as well. You only got to look at his background. Everything has a place though. It's just like, but when you actually watch him do a project, he leaves his tools all over the place and then tidies up at the end. I watched a 40-minute video of him just basically sorting through his material shelves. Yeah. And throwing away his offcuts and stuff. And he
yes.
Yeah. But similar to me, he'd kept every tiny scrap of wood back from when he last tidied the shelf like a year ago. It's just like,
of course.
I'm guilty of that as well. It's just like I don't like throwing anything away. I'm a real hoarder. And it's just like, that could be useful one day. It's just like, yeah, but what would be more useful is if you didn't have all that there and then you'd have more room to build things.
Yes.
But then as soon as you throw it away, you need it.
You need it. That's happened to me countless times. Yeah. Yep. I agree.
There's a nice thing about 3D printing in a way. It's one of those few things that's like when you're seeing stuff, you always hang on to every little bit of wood just in case. Oh well, that's the bit of wood I need to cut that out of, or make this, or make that, or make this jig, or whatever. With 3D printing, there's none of that. You just have resin.
Yeah.
And that's it. Do you know what I mean? Everything the printer makes is out of this liquid. You just keep pouring liquid in. You never waste any liquid. When it gets down to a little bit, you just pour it into the next cartridge. You're never having to, do you know what I mean? Keep things just in case you need them. It's either liquid or you've run out. They're the only two states you can exist in.
Yeah.
So you don't actually end up with the same issue of, it's actually quite a tidy manufacturing process from that point of view. There's no spare bits. Do you have the same with filament? Do you end up with little bits of filament that you think, ooh?
I mean, you can run through a roll, so yeah, you get like little bits at the end, but you're talking pennies. And you're getting a lot of excess with your supports and things like that. So like you have your box of rejected prints. I have a box of failed prints and PLA. I have a box of ABS. Like you just have the different types of materials. And then actually, my cousin has been working on a project at University of Canton for recycling filament. So they have a filament recycler that makes it into new filament. So it's really cool. It's not high quality filament, but it's useful. It's usable, right? So it's a really cool concept. And then they're also looking at a hopper. So you have a hopper on the top that would melt pellets. So you'd have a pellet maker and you just melt as you go. So there's a couple different options there for recycling filament.
Oh, that's interesting. Because, I mean, in theory, I suppose, if you could recycle filament, because some FDMs have like a dual head on them, you could have good filament and shitty filament and use the shitty filament for the infill or for support.
Exactly right. Yep. That's exactly it. Because who cares? You don't care if it's blobby or if it's, it's got spits and spurts.
It's just inside it. Now, this is me interrogating you about how FDM printers might work.
Sure.
Just to try and fix my issues with them. Can you have two different nozzle sizes on a 3D printer? Oh, wait a minute. And print at different layer heights with each nozzle?
Yes.
You can do that.
Yep. You can do that. And also, in the software, it depends on the level of detail for the layer height. So it's kind of like how the Formlabs software does it, where it's got variable heights. So you can do the same thing with FDM. So if you can extrude more and do like a 0.3 millimeter on a sidewall, and then you start doing a curve, it'll go down to like 0.1.
Okay, that's cool, because it doesn't work in Formlabs yet. One day it will.
It's beta.
It's so beta. Because what I say, the FDM printers I want to buy are the massive ones. They're like, well, not massive, but the big ones, like meter cube. There's one that's a meter cubed. I think that'll be
that's why I printed the Mandalorian on.
Yeah, and I think that'll be absolutely perfect for the sort of like event work that we do. As a sort of like not necessarily building stuff out of wood, especially stuff that wants to be outside. You can sand it down really nice and use car paints on it and stuff. Perfect. But the speed at which these things print is annoyingly slow. Like I've seen some people printing a print that took 2 weeks on one of these machines. And obviously you're always fighting, like you do with all 3D printing, quality versus speed. Absolutely. So my question is, if you're building a big solid thing, say you're building a beer, let's go with a beer bottle for... No, a beer bottle's a bad example. No, we'll just go with a beer bottle anyway. I know it's not got a lot of surface detail, but let's just pretend it's wiggly or something. Right? Can you have an FDM printer with 2 heads on it, one with a smaller nozzle, that's printing the very outside surface, effectively, of the beer bottle at 100 micron, and then the other nozzle is a fatter nozzle and is printing at like 1 millimeter to do the infill at layer height? Can you make them do that so that you're getting the surface quality of the thinner filament on the very small layer height, but you're only making that wall perhaps 2 mil thick and then infilling it with the fatter stuff?
Yeah. No, I don't think you can differentiate that much. Like you could probably do 0.1 on the outside and 0.3 on the inside. But you also understand that the infill is 1 layer this way and then 1 layer this way. So you're effectively getting twice as much infill, and it's more of a lattice work inside. And it literally just comes down to, okay, I printed 3 layers on the outside, now I need to print 1 layer on the inside. 3 layers on the outside, 1 on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is doable. Because I was sort of thinking about, well, when you do it, and that's kind of the sort of like advantage of sort of FDMs, in that you have the dual head thing, because that's something that as an SLA printer person, it's one thing. You're printing in one thing. That's all you get. You know, and it's like having the dissolvable supports and having, you know, like lower grade infill material, or you know, like I say, it is fascinating because it's something that, you know, just is not an option with SLA printing.
And the one thing I really like about it, like I can print with one filament as flexible and the other filament is ABS, and you can connect the parts. So they're fused together as a complete part, and one part is flexible and the other part is hard. So, you know, it's like armors and things like that. You can do fun stuff like that. Yeah. Little tchotchkes things.
That's awesome. Because and there is a wood filament as well.
There is. Yep. There's a wood filament. So it's still wood fiber in plastic, but you can stain it, you can sand it. It smells wonderful when you're printing it. It does. It smells like gingerbread. It's just amazing.
Really?
Yeah, it's super good. And it looks really cool. I just because you're heating the wood up to a certain temperature. That's what it smells like. I think it might be cedar, but it's really cool. I've been printing a lot with wood filament. The hardest thing to deal with is that it's abrasive, so it'll basically ruin your nozzles much quicker than if you're just normally printing with, you know, ABS or PLA. And the funny thing, I grabbed this because I wanted to talk about print times, right? So this guy, right, Mandalorian helmet, you can see on the top that it's got some kind of funk because when I wanted to print it like this, it was 156 hours. When I printed it like this, it was 54 hours.
Yeah, because you didn't have tab supports on the inside.
Exactly. So, you know, stuff like that where you can really, and that was printed in 0.3. So it was a pretty, you know, fairly quick print. You know, it wasn't a 0.1 or whatever. So that took, you know, a couple days to print. And it's a fairly basic shape, but it's solid. Like it's definitely like a good, I would say probably maybe a centimeter thick.
Wow.
You know, so it's
like I would love to think like, well, if we'd had that technology available to us when we did the rating,
right?
More time to do a file for it. I mean, the 3D print files do take a hell of a lot longer than a carving file to put together. But how long would it have taken?
That is the question.
When you consider what from commission of that job to delivering it to Germany was 26 days, it's like we wouldn't have had time to print it. You know, it's like
exactly.
But it would have allowed us to like, because I presume there is obviously clear 3D print materials for FDM that light would pass through.
Yep.
And follow, so we could have printed in all the lighting and even the tiny lighting, and then like put LEDs.
Just put the LED in the center, and it would It's a lot of possibility for sure, you know, and especially in larger models, like to use the, you know, the right material for the right process and kind of be able to mix and match, you know, because certain things you really want to have that high detail, and other things you just want you want it to look right. And that thing's going to take, you know, some time to sand it down and to get it prepped to make it look good. Whereas something in an SLA, like you said, would be coming off the printer with, you know, a couple little touch points and you're good to go. So
it's so
it's all give and take.
Take us through the sort of like the sanding. So what material is that helmet in, and what are the steps to get that to be as, you know, good as it can get, so you can paint it and it look perfect?
So that's done in PLA. So that's it's a low temperature. It's more brittle than ABS. So it's just if you sand it too much, or if you use like a palm sander on it, you'll melt it, is what it comes down to.
Ooh, right.
So you're gonna have to hand sand it. And usually with something like that, like there's a couple places that need some fill. It needs a little bit of, TLC here and there. But it's literally just going over the entire process or the entire surface, sanding it down with, you're probably talking at least 250. You'd want to, do the layers and bring it down to the level of where you want it to be smooth. And then it's with the fill and everything else, then you prime it. And you want to use a thick primer. That's going to be a plastic primer because PLA is very tough to kind of stick to. So you have to get one of those specialized, like Krylon. I forgot the name of it. I have a can of it, but you got to get a specific primer for that. And then that actually is a thicker primer, so it fills in some of those extra layers. And then you once you prime it, you're like, dang, I really missed this spot. So you have to go back and fix that. It's kind of a couple layers here and there. And then, then once you do that, then it's like, throw some chrome on there or whatever you want to paint it on top, and you wouldn't know the difference.
Nice. So with the wood filament, does that have the same melting issues when you sand it?
Yep. Yeah, so most of the wood filaments are done with PLA. So.
Interesting.
Yeah. And depending on, what brand you get, you can get a percentage of how much wood is actually in the filament. So that really makes a difference on the finish and how it looks. Normally those come out a little bit rougher because you do have, plant fiber in your filament. So
it's interesting because it's like I always imagined if I was printing huge things out of FDM that I'd be going at it like I would with a power sander. But if it all melts, then that's bad.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't work so good with
that. I can't see us hand sanding a Raven size model.
Right. That'd be tough. I mean, you could probably get away with it if you're just, doing light sanding. But, I when I'm using a palm sander, I'm doing like the floors or something, like you're getting on it, So it's a little different.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of want to like get some panels of it and see what kind of fillers and things would kind of work on it, because it's like I would really like to sort of go down that route to replace the 3D carve for stuff like the Kraken body, to go all the way up to an SLA print on that. Yes, we have companies that we can go to get those sort of ludicrous size SLA prints done, but to SLA print the Kraken the size it was, it's about 30 grand just for the print.
Right.
Because they'll do it in about 6 pieces. So it's really expensive to have done. It would look spectacular. It would take me like 2 years to draw the drawing for it, I think.
Right. Oh my god.
Just
to get all that detail in there.
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd be talking about doing it down to the same details we do our 1 to 100 models. But sort of like where the approach we took to it was the right one, in that you make the fuselage out of something quicker, and cheaper, and then use 3D printed SLA parts over the body of it to bring some details out. The issue was there's such a whoring gap between the 3D carved wood and the 100 micron SLA printing, and it was like they did not seamlessly go together. It was saved by the dioramas on top and all the small ships, but it's just like there was too much of a gap, and it's like,
I think this would bridge that gap. Yeah, exactly.
Interestingly, there is another option to fill that gap, which is the Form 3L, bizarrely. So the Form 3L is obviously a much bigger printer, but they also have these draft resins. So the new draft resin, I should have a sample of it somewhere. 1 second.
Thanks, Plan.
Yeah. I do have a little bit of it here.
You also have a ghost chair.
Yes, the ghost chair. I thought this T-shirt was the right color, and it's really not. So it's not quite green enough. So you guys will recognize this stuff. So this is the first draft resin that Formlabs put out. You can sort of see on the bottom it almost looks like FDM.
Oh wow!
Just because the layer heights are so massive. Now this is printed at 300 micron. And to be honest, it still looks better than an FDM print. If I'm honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we were saying before. Like even the difference between the Argo Cargo and the Carrack, like both of those printed in 0.1, you're going to have way better. Exactly. And I'll tell you the reason why. I know the reason why that is, but you have much better surface quality from the SLA because the laser, right? The problem you have with FDM is when you're squishing layers down, it bows out the outside. So you get the squish layer, and it's like these two things on the outside. So no matter how many times you do that, you're still going to have those real defined ridges in between the layers because the sides aren't flat. Whereas when you're using this thing, it's shooting a laser up and it's making a flat side, and then the next layers are like right up along next to it. It works out. It makes it a lot more seamless.
It does. I'll quickly to answer your question, Flan. No, it's not in Austin. It's in LA. It got moved to LA just because they've got more storage there. So this, you can sort of see the direction this was printed in. If I can get to catch the light again, you sort of see its striations running that way. So it wasn't flat printed; it was on a slight angle. So that was the old stuff, and this prints ludicrously fast. We printed this in a stream, I think. It's solid. This is not how you would usually use an SLA printer, but it's quite useful for real quick draft, dirty prints that aren't particularly high quality. You can sort of see the striations on the top. So, I mean, for SLA printing, this is really low quality. Now, the new stuff is this. So this is ignore this, that's because I glued, you may recognize this triangle from Carrack video because I glued a bit of the Carrack to it to help it stand up. So ignore that. So this is a bracket. Now this is done in the new draft resin. Now obviously take this with a little bit of a pinch of salt because this is Formlabs' example piece. So they always make sure the example piece works well.
Looks good.
But this prints, I put glue over it, 17 minutes to print this. This is in a 200 micron layer height, so not quite as quick as this. Okay. But they have found it to be, and I agree with them, a better middle ground. So the surface quality is not bad. This is what I was really interested in the flat surface quality. It really isn't bad. It's a very tough resin. It's not dissimilar from tough. It's got quite a lot of flex to it. It's not brittle. It's a good hard resin. Most of the things you see printed on the Form 3L, like the bicycle helmet and stuff, is in this resin.
Oh, okay.
And it massively speeds up the printing in the 3L. And I think that this stuff would be that middle ground. So let's take the Kraken, for example. You would have it where it's the landing decks themselves, the actual landing pads, would probably be done in either a plastic, because they are really big. But then the door where you're exiting the ship to come onto the landing pad, that's still quite a big section of it, that would be made of this stuff. So it's still too big to do kind of detail prints like this, like we're done with the Carrack and stuff. It would just take too long. But this stuff in the 3L, that would be kind of maybe the middle ground, because you could obviously make things 5 times the size. I mean, this doesn't fill our printer, but you're talking things probably 15 times the size of this in the 3L in one big go. In this resin, maybe only a 40-hour print, because at least the 3L has 2 laser heads in it, so it is a little bit quicker. So I'm kind of I'm at that point. I say I'm at that point like I've got 10 grand in my pocket, but if I was going to spend 10 grand, it is literally between the Form 3L and that meter cubed FDM. And if I had the 10 grand today, or a project came along that needed that solution to exist for us, I'm not 100% sure which way I'd go. I'm leaning towards this at the moment. Even the issues we've had with the 3 and whether I trust it'll be any better with the 3L or not. This detail level, from a finish point of view, because you're saying you can't sand an FDM print easily, I'm thinking it from the point of view of I've got to turn whatever comes off this printer into a thing to take to an event real quick. This to me looks better. This is more usable, but not as big.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
We're not talking size equivalency here. We're talking the FDM is a meter cubed. This is 450 mil by 400 by 300 or something like that. So it's cubic foot versus cubic yard. Effectively, we're sort of talking difference wise. So one's 9 times the size of the other, but perhaps it's enough to bridge a gap between the timber carve and the and the SLA, and have that in the middle. So still keep with a wooden frame, sort of wooden fuselage underneath it. I mean, we're talking the Kraken size sort of models. I mean, if you had the time, you could say do a whole Idris hull in this. The issue is the number of joins. And that's what it comes down to. The advantage of having that huge printer, even if you've got quite a lot of finishing work to do, is that you still got a hell of a lot of joins if you printed it out of this.
Right.
And splitting a print up neatly so you can join it together and seamlessly put it together takes a long time to do those joints.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Is you'd be able to have the base as a FDM, and then have the greebly bits added on.
Absolutely, and that would be my hope for like a big sort of meter cubed type, FDM. But if you can't sand it with power sanders, that to me that does worry me. That does worry me to the point of, wonder if you could wet sand it.
I don't know.
We have an air sander that you can use wet. To keep just to use water as a coolant, stop melting. It'd be interesting to try that, because it's, I say, to be able to, and then there's the time issue. These huge printers are hugely expensive and massively slow. I wonder how long it would take to print the Kraken. I bet more than a week.
That's a good question.
That's how long we cut.
I bet you. I bet you that's a lot longer than a week. But those guys, how long did it take those guys to do the javelin?
Yeah, that was thousands of hours.
Thousands and thousands
of hours. My FDM projects in ABS, you don't have to worry about sanding. Unji, so ABS doesn't.
I was just going to say that, yeah. So the ABS has a higher temperature, and it doesn't do the same thing. I'm kind of stuck with that with this guy, because it wasn't my printer. It was a borrowed printer, and they had PLA, and it used basically most of the roll. So I didn't have a choice. I would have built that in ABS. So I had the possibility.
So what's the disadvantages of ABS then?
It's a ball ache to be printing anything in that. Like it's you got to make sure like the environment needs to be stable. You need to make sure that you have full contact. You got to babysit it quite a bit, because if you get one little thing, it's pulling off the side and knocking over your print, and it's just much harder to deal with. But once you have it locked in, and once you have it's set right, then the way higher quality, much stronger prints. A lot more resilient for droppage and things. It's not as brittle. So it's definitely like that was the first material I started printing was ABS, and I didn't know how hard it was to print in ABS compared to PLA. I literally had the box that the printer came in over top of the printer while it printed to keep the environment warm enough so it didn't pull off the bed.
So it's a heat thing.
It's a heat thing for sure.
Is it humidity a thing as well?
Humidity is a huge thing with filament in general and with printing. Yeah, because a lot of the filament like sucks up moisture like crazy.
Oh, right. So it's a case of there is not enough humidity, or the humidity changes too much, or
Right. Like if you leave your filament out into a humid environment and then you start printing with it, you can have like issues with print quality and things like that, because it's essentially vaporizing the moisture as it goes through the nozzle and making spits and spurts. So
okay.
yeah, and that
interesting.
happens
Yeah,
with certain filaments better or more than others.
Interesting question from Barchi. Are all models 3D printed every time? Do you create one perfect print and then create multiple? Yeah, so interesting. Well, certainly from our point of view, with the Formlabs printers, we don't have those sorts of issues with because they do their own temperature and humidity control. They're dispensing their own resin. They self-level themselves all the time. One of the reasons they are production printers is that they deal with all that for you. For the consistency of printing. I would say in general, yes, once you've got yourselves to the point where we've got our kind of scaffold made up, this is a print, this is one of the Cutlass Black 1:500 prints. Once we've got it set up, it's on its build tray, it's got all the parts we want, they're all rigged how we want. Well, that is now ready for production. When we said that's ready for production, we'll put 8 of them on a build platform, and then it'll just print. Now, they will print on our printers perfectly consistently hundreds of times, except when there's something wrong with the printer. So basically, all printers, all manufacturing equipment, gets dirty. The thing that gets dirty on a SLA 3D printer, or certainly the Formlabs ones, is because it's not FDM type temperatures. It heats the resin to about 30 odd degrees. You've obviously got a bit of evaporation, and you get a sort of just a general air of resin in the air over time.
Yeah.
And that just builds up we're going to get a tiny sort of like environmental film on top of the glass mirror and the glass plate that underneath the tank. So, and you're only probably talking once a month of heavy production, like 24/7 production. You need to clean these. It's a ball ache to clean a Form 2. Form 3 is just perfectly dead easy. It's got one, so that one of the biggest upgrades they made between the 2 and the 3. The 2 has a laser. It has 2 tiny little galv mirrors on tiny little servo motors just in front of the laser, which direct the laser down to a mirror here, which is a fixed plane mirror. It doesn't move, and that bounces the laser light to a bottom of a glass screen that's up here, that's underneath the tank with the resin in. And it's supposed to be a sealed unit, but it's not. It's not a sealed unit, not airtight by any stretch. So you do get dust in it over time. You do get, say, small amounts of resin building up on these surfaces. Now you have to dismantle the whole printer, clean these tiny galv mirrors, clean the big mirror, clean the glass. And over time, when I say time, 2-3 years of constant running, you do actually start rubbing the protective coatings off these things. The mirror and the underglass are dead easy to replace. The Formlabs will just send you free ones. They've just sent us a box of them if we ever need to replace them, which is great. I say Formlabs are fantastic from a support point of view. It's like, here, have this. People who've watched our show for a while will remember we had a recurring issue with build platforms that popped their seals out, and we would ring them and like build platforms for a Form 2 printer, and Form 3, it's the same build platform, about £100. So that's just the thing that goes in that the thing gets lasered onto. And they're an aluminium body with 2 plastic end caps with a rubber seal, a gasket. And for unbeknownst reasons, after a while, one of these gaskets will come loose and the thing will fall out the end. And you can't push them back in. They just pop back out again pretty much instantaneously. And so you ring Formlabs, they go, yeah, no problem, send you another one. And over a couple of years and 7 printers, we had a pile, because like we went back to Ford, I won't throw anything away, had a pile of 11 of these. So over $1,000's worth of these things that they'd sent us replacements for. No, I'll tell you, there were 8 of them. I'll tell you what, there were 8 of them. And then when our new Form 3 printers, we had a brand new build platform when we bought the new printers. We like to have 1 or 2 more build platforms than we have machines they go into. So that's printers, washers, added together, plus 2 is the number of build platforms we like to have. So we had a couple of new build platforms when we got these new printers. Brand new build platform, went in, popped the seal out, first print. And it's a huge issue when this happens because it pops it out, it fills with resin. If you miss the fact that it's popped, because it might have popped at the back and only it be open a little bit, you dump all that resin into your IPA wash and ruin your IPA wash. So you've lost a load of resin. You have to replace 8 liters of IPA. So it's an expensive thing if you don't notice. So rang Formlabs, sent us another one. Happened again, second print. So now we've got 10. Sent us another one. 3 prints in, happened again. And we were like, what the fuck is going on? this is
Yeah.
And one just literally popped all the way out. And you know when you sort of sit down and head scratch, like, what the fuck is going on? We had loads of them doing it with the Form 3 printers. And I've determined that it's a Form 3 issue, right? And I think it's a Form 3 printer in Scotland issue. Because this was over the winter, right? So you've got an aluminium chassis, so it's effectively an aluminium box with 2 open ends, plastic caps on, big plastic caps with a rubber seal around the outside. Once we've done a print on them, we clean them with IPA and we stand them upside down, right? So they're at Scotland room temperature in Scotland with the energy bill paid by a Yorkshireman. So that'll give you a kind of room temperature that we exist in, right? That then goes in a printer that, unlike the Form 2, has an air blow heater in it, right? That keeps the temperature at about 33, 35 degrees. And when the print starts, it lowers down all the way into the resin, and the blow heater is right against it. So it's about an inch and a bit away from the outlet of the blow heater. And what was happening was, because aluminium's such an amazing heat conductor, it was just heating the air up inside this thing. It had nowhere to go, so it just popped the seals out. Because it was going from such a cold temperature to such a warm temperature so fast, it just literally was blowing the seals out through air expansion.
Wow.
So I drilled a hole in the top of all my build platforms, and it's never happened again.
Simple.
Yep. It's so simple. We told Formlabs that we're doing it, and they went, "Oh, we'll be interested to know what happens." I gave Leela a bucket of IPA and a sponge, and she cleaned all the 11 broken ones. We drilled holes in them, so now I've got loads of build platforms because they all work. All those ones that we had, ones that we had sat there, now all usable.
That's crazy.
And it was all because it's just air expansion. And I suspect if you'd slowly warmed them up before you'd put them
they
in,
would be
you
fine.
went in
Yeah.
Scotland, they would have been fine. But it's just air temperature difference was pushing the seals. I do think there was a shitty batch. Don't get me wrong. I do think there was an issue with the seals or something that made that problem more exaggerated in those cases.
Mm-hmm.
But those ones haven't popped again after we fixed them. So yeah. But yeah, so you get little things like that happen. You get a bit of cleaning, but other than those sort of instances, I'm trying to think what else fails a print that you've printed 100 times. I mean, 95% of our print failures happen on prototyping prints, ones where we're trying to get the touch points right. The thing is, hand on heart, I could probably throw a print into a printer and never have it fail. At this point, I've been doing it long enough. If I didn't care about having the smallest touch points possible for the kit model we are selling, but we take it down to the wire of the smallest amount of support points we can get away with, so it's easier to build, easier to clean up, easier to paint at the end of the day. If I didn't care about that, I'd just shove big touch points. Nothing would ever fail, but you'd never be able to get a nice clean model out of it. So we literally print them until they fail, and then back it back a bit and put bigger touch points on, and then we'll do a full test print of like a full raft and print it 2 or 3 times. And if it still hasn't failed after that, we'll go, right, that's fine. It'll be it'll be fine now. Most parts that we've printed for our kit models have gone to at least 30 test prints before they go into a kit.
Wow.
As a general rule.
Huh.
Because I say we back the touch points to the minimum we can get away with until they fail, and then we bring them back a bit. And we see where it fails. And we still might take some of the others down even further, and then we just put them where they need to be. Because otherwise it's a pain in the ass. And that's why some people bring say, oh, there was some damage in shipping. A load of things have fallen off the scaffold. It's like, it's not, not perfect. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Is there any actual damage to the part? Oh, no, the part's fine. Cool. That means we've put just the right amount of touch points on. Just perfect. Literally some of them will fall off as you touch them, because they are down to, hello, Athergen, how are you? It's we get it down to the absolute bare minimum we can get away with, because it makes the modeling aspect of our kits much better. So once we're past that stage, they certainly on our printers, touch wood, you could run. I mean, we have for certainly to the diorama models and things, have run the same print a couple of hundred times without it failing. Other than when you start, and that's the thing. With the cleaning of it, it doesn't go from fine to fucked in one print. You can sort of see, you get this sort of skirting around the edge that you can just sort of rub off with your finger, but that's the sign that it needs cleaning. So the key is, when that starts to happen, you get this tiny little bit of skirting around the very first layer, the base layer. That's usually a sign that it's out of focus, and that's because when it does its first layer on an SLA printer that bonds it to the metal platform, it actually defocuses its laser slightly to and holds it for longer to actually get a better adherence on that first layer. And when you have a dirty galv mirror or mirror, that is exaggerated so much you end up with this tiny skirt around it, and that's kind of like, you watch out for that. As soon as that happens, you clean it. I say Form 3, you never get it because it doesn't have. It is a properly sealed unit. It doesn't have 2 galv mirrors and a secondary mirror and a big bit of glass. It has one tiny bit of glass and a convex mirror and all this sort of crazy stuff all sealed up in this unit. So, all you do is wipe the tiny bit of glass every so often, and I don't think I've had to do that on either of ours more than a couple of times.
I've had to do that on mine as well, but that's really easy.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it has disadvantages as well, because we had a tray split once and it filled it with a litre of resin, and that printer went back to Form Labs. New printer, please.
New printers, thank you.
And so that is, that's why they call them touch points. Exactly.
Yep, that's exactly it. Well, I do have a birthday party to get to, so.
Yes.
15-minute warning.
Just an hour and 15 minutes over what I was supposed to be doing. So, yeah. So, we're aiming for this to be a 2-hour stream going forward on a Sunday. There's a reason for that, which will be announced soon, TM-ish, involving a couple of people that are still in chat. And we will be handing over to their stream at 8 o'clock UTC. We actually will have a hard deadline, so we can't just fucking witter on forever. I do have a so any very quick questions in chat before we work out who to raid. I've got a raid button, so we're actually going to do it. I don't know who, but Astro's streaming. What's Astro streaming? Good look what Astro is streaming.
0 to Hero.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'll do. So we should be raiding Astro. Say hi from everyone still hanging around. Tell them you are coming from JRDF. You're at a very low level of informational retention, so don't get him to tell you anything too important. We have filled your brains with all the knowledge you'll ever receive. Thank you all for coming and stopping by and listening to us bleat on about 3D printing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your inputs on the models. I say for anyone who wasn't here, we should just very quickly look back at this chart. So this is our announcement of all the 1 to 500 models that JRDF have committed to for 2021. Shut up, Hashkahar. Stop it. The ones in an orangey yellow outline are the ones that are coming next quarter. So Cutlass Black, Cutlass Red, Freelancer, Max, Standard Freelancer, Arrow, and Pisces. So this is all 1 to 500 models. We've then announced today in quarter 4, so by the end of this year, we are adding the Buccaneer, the Gladius, the Freelancer Miz, the Sabre, the Vanguard, the MSR, and the Hercules. So we'll be doing the Hercules as the big kit model, and then the rest are all these big dioramas. The MSR still works out at about a 4-inch by 4-inch model. So we have very suitable scale thing. It's about the same size as a Carrack's arse. So that is pretty close to how big the MSR model as a big diorama, huge diorama, is going to be. So that is coming for the end of the year. So yeah, so that is that's what's out there. Be interested to know people's desires for Q1 2022. So this chart here is a chart that we have made. It only has in-game ships that are in-game that aren't Vandal. That's basically our rules that we're going with here. And those 3 on the far right-hand side, Cutlass Black is well on the way. If I could hit the right button, see, Cutlass Black in 1 to 500, all good, and the Cutlass Red body as well. We're debating. I only noticed yesterday that the Cutlass Red doesn't have the missile pods.
The missiles.
Yeah, just like, well, I knew I didn't have missiles. I just assumed that like blocked off the missile pods. But no, it doesn't even have the missile pods, so I had to sort of do all that. But I have managed to get rescue written on the side of it. My camera will show us up. So it does have rescue. So yes, so that's cool. Right, so we're going to raid Astro. Thank you for healing missiles. That'll be awesome. Launch the healing missiles.
Awesome.
Yes, CIG. We need healing missiles. That would be brilliant.
Healing missiles, please.
Right. Okay, so we are raiding Astropub. When I click this button, it may be instantaneous. It may take time. I've no idea. I've never done it before. I'm clicking it now.
I think it takes a minute or so. Yeah. So.
Well, again, 9 seconds. Thank you very much for all joining in. Say hello to Astro for us, and yeah, we'll see you on Wednesday for Workshop Wednesday Live.
Thanks, everybody.
Let's go. Cool.
Cool.
Some of the fuck ups that Bethesda's done.